Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
You know, in the mainstream, we're like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Looked down at, so to say. And then if they come here and this is going to be our hangout pad, right? You know, why shouldn't
Right.
it be like a refuge, so to say, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the things you become a flat earther, right? Is your independence kind of comes out a little more.
I suppose. Good morning, Nathan.
Morning.
Morning, Nathan.
Morning.
Yeah. Oh, now you gave the link out. I was wondering, where's Neil and the rest? What's going on?
I'm sure they'll be here
They're
shortly.
always eager to come on.
So what's it been, a week of Discord now? You happy? Righteous?
Yeah, I'm happy.
All running smoothly, I assume?
Yes. I'm just thinking now of like, who should I let on the server kind of going forward, right? Like, it's got to be a balance of like, you know, we need folks for the show, but it's also be like, we don't want certain like behavior on the server, right? So, kind of thinking about that.
Can you have probationary membership?
No sluts around.
You know what I mean? Like the first couple months you're probationary when you're on the server, so you can just remove them easily.
Right. Because if I let it out kind of like that in the beginning, and I do just drop them like a sack of salt, then I already explained it to them before, and anyways, that's interesting.
Well, what are the rules, Righteous? What are like the main rules? Aren't they written
They're
out?
very basic. Yeah, they're very basic. They're like no recording in the voice channels without admin permission. Treat others as you would have others treat you, right? And that includes no drama, gossip, he said, she said. I don't like when people just gossip about people. And respect moderation, moderators, and you can help out with moderation by reporting it to us privately. That's kind of it. Very bare bones at the minute.
What about certain topics, right? Is that understood that certain topics can't be
I usually notify them like in the voice verification. I usually say, hey, don't talk about so and so and such and such. I usually do that in voice
got it?
verification. And I got a bot that like flag certain words. But I
Like-
just kind of
like
don't
what?
want it to be like,
Like what? List them all off. I'm only joking. Don't.
oh,
I was listening to a guy last night, and it's in the mob tube genre, and they were talking about this certain guy who was white supremacist, and they went back and forth in what the guy does, who he's with, and the guy was like saying, "This, I got to take this video down now." So I guess it's universal, right? Certain subjects can't be talked about on YouTube, otherwise you get taken down.
Well, yeah, but it's a bit more nuanced than that. You've got community guidelines that you're just supposed to adhere to.
yeah, it's fair game. I mean, if you have the guidelines out and that's the rules, right?
So then how do these other people have like channels? Like let's say neo Nazis, how do they have a channel?
I don't know, are they staying within the YouTube community guidelines? If so, then what's the issue? I'm not condoning neo-Nazism. I'm just saying, if you stay within YouTube's rules and you're a Nazi, then you'll be all right.
But other people talking about them, you get taken down. Okay, I got it.
Are they a protected group?
Well, the group that kind of ties in with neo Nazis is. So if you're talking about that, you are going to be talking about the other group.
Right, so they're part of a protected group. So, yeah, again, it's in the YouTube community guidelines. So if they're using that as a shield, more power to them. Whatever, I don't care.
What are we going to discuss today? Whose video are we taking apart today?
Go and find one, Neil. That can be your job.
Yeah, I had something I wanted to bring, but this car and moving has got my mind all over the place.
Are you
can't
moving now? Are
concentrate.
you driving?
I posted 3 for you yesterday, all from Professor Dave. It's a 3-part series.
In mass debaters?
Professor.
In mass debaters?
Yes, in Master D. Watch your tongue. You're not part of a protected group.
Right, what we got? Let's have a look. What is the Coriolis effect? No, that's just a link.
No, it's titled. It's got its own. It's got part 1, part 2, part 3. It says Professor Dave.
No, Nathan, I'm not driving. I'm parked at the mechanic, ready to get raped.
Oh, is there a new Darth video?
What?
No,
No,
there is not.
Ah,
That's the
bummer.
one we talked about yesterday. That's the virus edition.
Okay, I can't seem to see the 10th. I've scrolled it quite some way.
I will repost it. I'll be right back.
Is it after or before Brian posted the... Oh, okay, I am there. I am there. Destroying Flat Earth without using science. Okay.
Yeah, you got it.
Brilliant.
Loading.
Maybe
Why
with
isn't it loading?
geometry.
Hold on. Why isn't it loading? Oh, there he is. Okay. I just dispensed the advert. Sorry, what were you saying, whoever that was?
I just said brilliant.
No, that.
I was
go
saying
on.
maybe with geometry rather than science because you have no science. Maybe they have geometry. God knows.
I don't think so. We debunked that in 2020. Black
Just
Swan.
say, how could they have
Absolutely.
geometry if they debunked it?
Well, I was about to say they could do what I did and prove my kitchen's not flat.
Responding to any of the challenges. Memorizing the names of logical fallacies and shouting them at random sure seems like a lot of fun, but it's not a working map or a model that shows
A working map or a working model? Okay, let's address that first. All of the maps and all of the models have been derived from the same origin. That'd be a celestial sphere model and elevation angle measurements from a flat plane. So your globe projections that are actually flat maps have come from the celestial sphere model. That's a flat Earth model. So all of your globe models are actually derivations of flat Earth models. Was Professor Dave Explained YouTube channel unaware of this?
Yes,
Clearly.
he is unaware
He stuck
of
with the
that.
fallacy.
Well, I agree with him. Right, let's just got to give the positive where the positive's due. Okay. So what he's got on screen, let's just move it across to the audience and see it a little bit better. Reification, straw man, argument from incredulity, argument from authority, cherry picking, raspberry Danish. I don't really know what that raspberry Danish one is a reference to. But he's saying throwing out claims of fallacy might seem like fun, but it doesn't help you with, and I thought he would say an argument, but he said a map. Okay, half a good point there, because just shouting out that's a fallacy or shouting out straw man doesn't help you unless you detail how that fallacy has been employed. Now, if you're detailing to an audience how that fallacy has been employed, that makes the argument that's being made void. So it's not useless to shout out a fallacy if one's being committed and you can detail how, because it makes the argument you're responding to void. So is non sequitur in regards to, well, that doesn't give you a map or model. Well, it doesn't give you a map or model, because your models and maps have been derived from a flat plane.
The seasons with night and day, or a legitimate response to anything whatsoever.
Seasons with night and day. So the maps and models that are used for seasons and night and day tracking have been derived from a flat Earth model. Celestial sphere model. So what? You've got a model that was derived from a flat plane model that can show the seasons? Okay. Well, it was reliant on development from a flat plane. It has to be, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to navigate using the sphere Earth model equivalent derived from a flat plane, because it wouldn't work with elevation angle measurements. That's why your sphere Earth model derived from a flat plane is then transposed onto flat maps, merely so you can call it a, quote, global projection that's come from a flat plane. So you can delude yourselves into thinking the reason the map's flat is just because it's easy to fold, but actually it's a sphere. It isn't. It's a flat map used with elevation angle measurements that can only come from flat terrain.
So at this point, I think...
Go on.
Go on, John. I'll go after you.
One of the things he's doing is poisoning the well, since their side is constantly using fallacy. Now he's trying to make it seem like if you call out the fallacy, you're just saying words to try to sound smart.
No, he's not.
So
He's not.
Party.
He isn't. He's not saying that. He's saying if you call out fallacy, you're not giving me a map or model. So on the one hand, you're right. He's saying, yeah, if I get caught out using a fallacy, my response will be, yeah, but you telling me I'm using a fallacious argument doesn't mean you've got a map or model. Well, actually, it does.
No, what he said.
Go on.
What he said prior to that is shouting out fallacy may seem like fun, right? So he's not addressing what a fallacy is or anything like that. He's just making it seem like if you say fallacy, then you don't really have anything. That's just something flat earthers do.
No, it's a coy trick. Actually, it's very smart, because if he frames fallacy in that way, then when he uses a fallacy later and someone shouts it out, see, I told you.
Wait, I'm
Just to-
confused.
Poisoning the well. That's what poisoning the well is.
Yeah. Also with the maps, if I may, being an owner of a boat and having it for over 2 years in Newport Beach Harbor, I have to have a map and also my radar on my console, would show every inlet, every dock, because you had to get out to sea, but you were near land, and you have to avoid the buoys and all the warnings. And so they don't use that map in the middle of the ocean. So every section that the boat is has a separate flat map. Coastline map. Catalina has its own map. Imagine if you're in the middle of the ocean, what kind of map would you have? Would you just have a ball that just had water on it? No, it's nonsense.
Can I ask a question? Do they have a working model? What are we talking about here?
No, they do not.
Oh, okay. Thank
There
you.
is no working globe model.
I think it's safe to say that they've thrown in the towel. Of course, there is no need to follow up after such an annihilation, and
Sorry, what annihilation? You said that not
out.
throwing out fallacies isn't having a map or model. What we've done to respond to that, Professor Dave Explained YouTube channel, is point out that all of the maps and models are requiring a flat plane in order to be developed in the first instance. So, what's your argument? How is this an annihilation? It isn't. Were you just patting yourself on the back because no one was there to contradict you? Well, welcome to Flat Earth Debate.
And I did not intend to, but now I find myself quarantined because of the coronavirus with no access to YouTube Studios
No access to YouTube Studio? You're making a video? What are you talking about?
and no way to make my regular content. So, you lucky little flurf balls, I'm back for more. Here's
Oh, aren't we just lucky? Yeah, we are. But we are going to pull apart every single word that you say.
what's gonna happen now. Since my 10 challenges made your heads explode, and none of you have
Did any heads explode?
I'm still trying to figure out who threw in the towel.
Nobody's
Yeah, that's
thrown
what
in
I'm
any
saying.
towels.
the mental capacity to make a map or a model, even at a
The models and maps have come from the celestial sphere model. The reason they're flat, those maps, they're not sphere-shaped, you stupid buffoon. Are you holding a map and going, wow, look how great this sphere proof is? What, a flat map? Why is it flat? Do you know? Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel. Do you know why they're flat? It's because you'll be using them in conjunction with angle measurements that will not and cannot work on a sphere. So why do you keep babbling on about maps and models when your maps and my maps are all flat so that they can work with the flat terrain and the flat angle measurement that you have to use with them? They don't work with a sphere. If you try and make them work with a sphere, you'll end up putting yourself at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, in the middle of the molten iron core, on a flat equatorial plane. So, clown, what makes you think you've got some working globe model? Let's see it. Pound says it isn't in this video.
at a middle school level, I figured I would dumb it down for you even more.
Dumb down what? Your claim that you've got working models that work with elevation angles. Your maps don't work with elevation angles if they're curving. So what are you babbling about? This isn't a proof for a globe. It's a proof of a flat Earth.
It's very easy to think of things that single-handedly obliterate the flat Earth delusion.
No, you can think about them and even tell yourself that you've annihilated flat earthers with them until a flat earther like me sits in front of them and points out that your maps and models are A, non-existent. Show me a working, complete, heliocentric globe Earth model. There isn't one. Furthermore, if you had one, it wouldn't work with navigation. It has to be a flat map. It has to be, because otherwise it won't work with angles. You can't get angles from curves. So what are you talking about, idiot?
Like, say, the existence of gravity. But
The existence of gravity? There is no gravity. It's a concept. It's explained in a fourth-dimensional space-time derived by Einstein. In the mind's eye of Einstein, we've got 4 dimensions, one of which is time. That doesn't exist. It's a description in maths. So the existence of gravity? No, there is no gravity. Certainly isn't a gravitational force. And the description in mathematics of gravity has a 4th dimension that we don't live in. We don't live in time, and it certainly doesn't bend or dilate. You can't bend concepts. Time's a concept. It's not a dimension. It is in gravity, though. So what are you babbling about?
you are so thoroughly science illiterate that you
Science? Gravity isn't science. We ask daily for scientific evidence of it. Have you not heard the show? We ask literally daily for scientific evidence of gravity. There isn't any. So why are you calling your audience scientifically illiterate when you don't have any science for this? You're just a liar? No, we've already established that he gets all this crap from other people smarter than him. Handed to him as research documents. He's a thicko. Professor Dave YouTube channel, you're a thick. You don't understand anything. This isn't science. It's not the establishment of cause and effect. There is no phenomena in gravity. It's a mathematical description. It's not science.
just shout gravity doesn't exist.
No, we say it's not science. There's no naturally observed phenomena. We say it's a description in pseudo-Riemannian force space-time derived by Einstein. I don't shout gravity doesn't exist. I demonstrate how you haven't got a naturally occurring phenomena, and it's merely a description in pseudo-Riemannian force space-time devised from the mind's eye of Einstein.
And pretend that this is not a stupid thing to say.
We didn't say it. We took apart your stupid nonsense based on it being a conceptual fourth-dimensional medium.
So instead, let's try some proofs that have nothing to do with science at all.
You haven't had any science at all up until now. So what makes you think that you're going to provide something that isn't science in lieu of something that you'd already provided when you hadn't? You didn't give us any science. So you're going to move on to the non-science when you haven't given us any science to begin with? Well, that seems stupid. Maybe give us some science before you say moving on from science.
There is no challenge. There is no prerequisite information. You just have to listen, acknowledge that the logic is airtight, and then cry yourself to sleep.
Well, we'll see about that. Professor Dave YouTube channel.
Are you ready? Here comes one now. What is this object?
We call it the moon. Further to that, I've got absolutely no idea what it is. We do know that you've got some presuppositions about it. Let's see if you list them off now.
It's the moon. We've all seen the moon.
Yes, we have. We can definitely agree upon it. It's apparent. It's there. We see it. Okay, not bad. We've agreed so far. Pretty good.
We've seen it many times.
Yeah, we'll agree on that too. We've definitely seen it many times. Yes, that's right.
Look at all of these pictures of the moon.
Wow, we're getting a nice little agreement ladder going here, Dave. Really good. Yeah. Obviously, I don't tend to buy into these salesmanship skills where you get people nodding along to things that are obvious only to drop a presupposition in a moment or two. Let's see how we go.
What do they have in common?
What, they're all getting us agreeing and we're all nodding along because it's perfectly reasonable so far?
They all show precisely the same features.
Okie dokie. Now, are those features going to be presupposed to be physical and rock-like? Maybe craters? Should we have a look at some of these lists? Can you guys see what's on screen? It's not broadcasting yet. You can't see what he's got with all this stuff labelling quote-unquote craters, I assume.
We all see the same face of the moon.
Face? That might need defining. What do you mean by face?
It doesn't change from night to night, and it doesn't...
What? It does change from night to night. Looks different each night. What's he talking about? Yes, it does.
Doesn't change throughout the night. There is...
Yeah, it does. It changes its position throughout the night. So we're into me now not really nodding along and agreeing with you when you say it doesn't change throughout the night? Yeah, it does. I look up over there and it's there. I'll come back an hour later and it isn't. That's a change.
What he's saying is the face that of the moon doesn't change, which is there's no point to be made there.
Okay.
no denying this.
Okay.
You can't shout CGI.
No, nobody would shout CGI to those claims so far. Are you preemptively taking away our attacks when you maybe show us a few CGI images later?
Can't cry conspiracy.
Conspiracy about what you've claimed so far wouldn't be claimed by any rational man because you've just shown pictures of the moon and said we all see the same thing. So there's nothing to shout conspiracy about so far. This is nonsense.
It's the moon.
Yeah, we know it's the moon. We've all agreed and nodded along. Apart from when you said there was no changes, and I detailed a couple of changes that it goes through throughout the night.
We can all see it with our own eyeballs.
My God, how many more affirmations do you need? Yes, yes, yes.
It's there, and it always looks like this.
No, it does not always look like that, you complete clown. I can show many images where it does not look like that, where it has a completely different shape. Phases, my friend. So this statement's wrong. It's an idiot. No, it does not always look like this, you stupid moron.
Now let's place the moon above a flat disk and...
Is this your model? Is this your model? Because this isn't my model. Oh, it's one of the times that we're going to call out a fallacy. Does that mean we don't have a map or model? Is that why you said when we cry fallacy, we haven't got a map or model? Well, this map or model was derived from the same place all the other ones were derived from. A flat plane and elevation angle measurements to give you all these circular lines around it. That's where they're derived from. Yet these are angle measurement based lines. Yeah, those circles. Where do you think they came from to give you this orientation of this map, which is an azimuthal equidistant north-centric projection? That's what this map is. I didn't make this map. Are you claiming this is your map? Because if you're not, it's a straw man fallacy. Because you're throwing out an argument that nobody's placed to you. Now, if you're going to say that some flat earthers have, maybe you could give us an example of where that happened, rather than just launching straight into this straw man. Because me, as a viewer, I'm immediately calling foul and fallacy. Because I haven't claimed this as my model, and we're yet to see your model. What we do see is a cutout of a moon suddenly hovering over a flat disk that's been derived from a sphere projection that's been derived from the celestial sphere flat plane model, as we detailed earlier. So what the hell is this little straw man you're holding up? Fallacy, my friend. Not just me crying it, me detailing it. Yeah, to take you apart on your nonsense fallacies? In this case, a straw man.
and let it float around in the little...
Float around? So we've decided that moon's floating? That's a claim you've now made. What makes you assert that it's an object floating? So floating has a very specific description and definition attached to it. Floating? Who says this? If you're a flat earther who claims it's a floating object above the disk, by the way, I've no sympathy for you. You'd get the same treatment. Me, I don't claim it because I'm not a moron. So why are you holding this up as a straw man? I don't claim it. I am a flat earther. Maybe you're just guilty of stereotyping also. Go on, whoever that was. Nobody.
Magic circles you like to imagine.
I imagine you've imagined this. Stereotyping fallacy. I have not imagined this. You have. You have put this on screen, not me. You are imagining this. The circles on the model, they've been derived from elevation angle measurements to stars, though. Specifically Polaris, which this is a centralized version of. i.e. Polaris is at the center. So why are you telling me it's me and my circles that I've imagined? I understand how this model works, but I haven't claimed it. You have.
If the Earth was flat, would we all...
Sorry, who claimed the Earth was flat? The moon was flat. Did he say the moon? Yeah. If the moon was flat, did he just say?
No, he said if the Earth was flat.
Oh, my bad.
see the same face of the moon?
Right, if the Earth was flat, would we see the same face of the moon? What's the moon? Are you going to now presuppose that it's a ball floating? Who's made that claim? You? You better defend this floating rock ball above a pizza pie, because it ain't my claim, it's yours now, Professor Dave, YouTube channel.
Here is someone standing in one spot looking at the...
Wow, you think that's how people stand looking at the moon on a flat pizza pie? Man, this is a stupid claim that Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel's making. Wow, you sound really stupid making this as a claim. Also, if you're a flat earther making this, yeah, you'd get the same treatment. Hold on, just let whoever's trying to get in. Eli.
I was going to say, one of the big things that I noticed early on in this argument is if someone held up like an azimuthal equidistant projection, it would be pointed out that that was a globe projection, right? And then the person by proxy would be claiming a globe. So if I claim the celestial sphere as my model, does that mean that the same thing will happen to anybody that claims it's a globe?
No, the globe has come from the celestial sphere, not the other way around.
Right, but the azimuthal equidistant projection comes from after the Haber sign is applied to the celestial sphere to create the globe.
Yeah, so what you're saying is
So just
the model is presented in this order. Comes from flat Earth elevation angle measurements to Polaris, followed by the celestial sphere model, followed by the Haber sign to project onto a sphere, followed by a projection onto a tube, and then rolled out flat. So that's the full process from flat Earth measurements to, quote, globe projection, right?
Yeah, so if the beginning point, the point that they're building off of, is my model, then they're flat earthers now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Dave's claiming this because he's talked about how he's right with his models and his maps, which are flat. They've got flat Earth origins and they're flat in nature. They're used with flat measurements, angles, can't be curved, right? If you use this version of it, after you've applied Haber sign formula and say you're using a tangent point based flat plane, you're using a flat plane, teeter-tottering, but on a sphere that's redundant, and then to make those angles work, you have to project that down into the centre of a sphere where you're not standing. Total bollocks. Right. So besides that bollocks, what you're actually left with, and that's redundant by the way, you don't need to do any of that. You can just measure angles off a flat plane.
Well, that was the point I was getting ready to make next, is where he says, if it was a flat plane, you wouldn't see the same side of the moon. He has accepted in his mind that it is a flat plane. Now he's trying to figure out why it's not.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He made it his claim. I did point that out, did I not? That it's become his claim now?
You did. But let me add to that. All their nautical almanac origins are not from the surface of a sphere that's curved. It even says in the Nautical Almanac that everything's from the center of the Earth. But another way of saying that is equatorial plane. So all of their angles come from an equatorial plane. So what is Dave really saying? If he was to say the origin of the angle measurement, if he says center of Earth and shows a globe, but if he says equatorial plane and shows a globe, excuse me, that's how you get your 90 from a disc, a plane. I mean, they even say it's from a plane.
Yeah, equatorial plane. If he says, well, we transpose the angles from the plane that we draw out on top of a sphere Earth that we're not using, and then we take the angle from that plane that isn't the globe Earth we're navigating and won't be navigating. We'll be navigating it on a flat map. But to make it work, we then got to transpose it down to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth at the equatorial plane. Yeah, so from the plane teeter-tottering to the plane in the middle where you're not standing. Yeah, this is bollocks. Yeah, you don't have to do any of that. You can just measure the angle, and you can plot it on a circle, on a flat map, with the stars where it originated from, because those stars were how all of these maps were devised. And how are they plotted? In the celestial sphere model. How can you derive that into an equatorial model, and then apply the Haversine formula to make it a globe? Yeah, you can. You don't have to, though. You can just use it flat. In fact, that's how it's actually done. It's not done with transformation formulas into the Haversine, into a globe, onto the top of a teeter-tottering plane, and then transposed down into the middle of a molten iron core to make the angles work. That is not done. You could, but it isn't.
Hello?
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man Rising, Neil, Refracted Curvature, Righteous Force, Eli, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Hey, good morning. Awesome pre-show.
Yeah, check out the pre-show. It'll come out on Tuesday for those of you who are subscribed to my second channel, Nathan Oakley. It's going to be continued in a moment after we do a bit of housekeeping, so you'll get the general idea of what we were talking about without us summarising it. So any evidence of a physical, that's physical, like a hill, geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known, as of 2020, 1st Jan, as Earth curve.
No, and has anybody tried to debunk it yet?
Nope. Debunked.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None whatsoever.
Where's
If
that
there
man
was, plane flights going east to west would be shorter because the Earth will be coming towards you, and that doesn't happen.
Any
Didn't
evidence?
Planar Walk actually claim that one time?
Who?
Planar Walk.
I don't know about that. Maybe. Unless you can detail it, Arwin, this kind of vague interruption to the housekeeping isn't welcome.
All right. Continue.
Any evidence that level runs equidistant to the centre of Earth?
Negative.
Crickets. Crickets.
Quick shout out to Bev Try Thinking. Keep up the good work.
Quick
And-
shout out to Eli.
And Eli. Keep up the good work. You're all ace. Any evidence you can have gas pressure, that's gas pressing on stuff, without a container to press on?
Fucking, come on.
Nope.
Space is fake then. The sky is not a vacuum. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth where the equatorial plane gives them angles for elevation?
No, they need the R value first. Without the R value, they've lost everything, including this one.
Any evidence
What
of
about the sonogram they took?
the P waves and S waves sonogram?
Yeah, they claim that that's how they established that there's a multiplying.
Number one, you'll need a flat Earth for those. They're getting return angle signals, right? The angle is measured. You need a flat plane for that. Number two, the measurements that they got from their P waves and S waves were not correct when they dug the Kola deep borehole. That prediction-based P waves and S waves information was incorrect. So no, this doesn't predict anything. And you need a flat plane if you use that method.
So they thought it was a girl and it was a boy?
Basically. They said it was sand, it turned out to be water. They said it would be coal, it turned out to be granite, etc., etc.
Next.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, I'm waiting for some.
They gave up on that one too. They threw Newton under the bus and said it's something happening in fourth dimension now, and gravity is not a force. So they even gave up on it.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
They're not science.
Email.
Wait, you're telling me disciplines are not science?
No, they've been miscategorized.
Well, when you look it up, they're under the category of science.
What did I just say? Did I stutter?
Doesn't matter that you said it, but it's still listed under there. So miscategorized. Then where's it supposed to go? What do you put it under? Pseudoscience?
If you like.
They make a distinction, Neil. Science basically means knowledge. So they put it under knowledge, but the scientific method in science deals with the natural world.
Yeah,
Wasn't it
natural
once said that?
natural
Hold on, I
science.
heard somebody-
Hold on. As you just had clarity from 10th. Yeah, science, correct. You can go back. I would call it an etymological fallacy, but if you want to, and you can define it as being knowledge, yeah, you could do that. Meanwhile, natural science, that's what we deal with here. We're talking about the Earth. That deals with cause and effect relationships, is based on systematic experimentation, which is in turn based on scientific predictions, otherwise known as hypotheses, which are based on having a phenomena, your dependent variable, that you're observing in nature and asking why it happens, and then presuming a cause of that effect. That's your independent variable, which you'll later go forth to vary in an experiment to see if it causes the effect you're studying. If you do all that, you've followed the scientific method and you've got an empirical outcome. That is science.
So with that experiment, it's not science.
If it hasn't
Or natural
established the
science.
cause of an effect with an independent variable, which is a presumed cause of an effect, which is capable of being varied by you, the researcher, is actually your presumed cause in the hypothesis and is real, and you have actually caused the effect you're studying in nature, if those things have not been fulfilled, then it is not science.
What experiment is Neil talking about? If you're just looking at stars, you're observing something. Where's the experiment?
There isn't one.
That's what I'm saying. So they listed it wrong. It should be listed under pseudoscience.
Pseudoscience is a claim of science where you haven't had an application of the scientific method applied. That's pseudoscience. So when people say, Timotei, here comes the science part, no. On the contrary, here comes the pseudoscience part. Because you're not establishing cause and effect relationships based on natural phenomena with a hypothesis-based experiment validated by you, the researcher, varying that which you presume caused the effect to see if it caused it, and it caused it. If you haven't got that, there is no science part. Moving on, any evidence of the R value? Earth, radius.
None whatsoever. This destroys everything about their claims. They can't travel anywhere without a correct R value. They don't know how much fuel to take without a correct R value. Without the R value, they don't have a sphere. It's over.
What? They don't. They need an R value to travel. No.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Yeah,
they
they do.
think they do.
Yeah, they think they do when they lie about travelling to a sky vacuum. So they'll say they've calculated the amount of fuel based on the distance to the moon, which has in turn been calculated by way of an R assumption which they can't measure. We debunked it with the black swan. If the Earth was a sphere radius 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as laid down in the Earth curve maths claiming to prove the Earth is a sphere blocking things in the distance. We have imagery that shows things that should be blocked by the sphere edge horizon hill getting in the way at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. It's beyond the things it's supposed to be blocking. Hills don't move. Once you've shown once, you only need to show it once, that it's not a hill getting in the way, then you don't have to make any further assertions. You've debunked the claim that the Earth is a sphere and the horizon is Earth curve.
Yep. And they certainly don't need R to do anything. They like to add it on because they need it to
make up your
create
mind. Do
their
they
globe
need it?
on
They
top
need
of
it
the
for their
flat Earth,
sphere.
right? But
That's what I'm saying.
but they
Arvin.
don't
I'm
need
not
it to actually do anything else but create their sphere. They don't actually use it.
That's what we're saying. I mean, this whole thing with Artemis just recently, they have it going orbiting around an R value Earth and then it slingshots to the moon. Give me a break. You don't even have R.
That concludes the
Gonna say the
housekeeping.
globe has a 20
Say again? Was that one deck? Or Creation Bear?
I was just saying the globe only has a 25-letter alphabet. We took the R out.
Good one.
Yeah, we did. But it just means that all of
That's
their
because
maths
it
is now
was-
wrong. It's all void. So where they used to appeal to that, or Neil deGrasse Tyson more specifically appealed to that as a proof, it's like, well, no, your calculations aren't even accurate because you haven't got a measured R value. So these maths that you're claiming are absolutely infallible? How can they be? Where'd you get R? Here's R in your maths. Where'd you get it? Oh, you haven't? You can't? It can't be measured? We wouldn't expect to be able to measure it. Oh, well then, how is this in any way accurate? It isn't. Further to that, we can debunk your claim to be acquisition of R by the Al-Biruni method in two ways. One, he used a flat plane to start the process. He measured the height of the mountain off a flat plane with angle measurements he could only get from a flat plane. And then he goes up and looks at a geometric horizon that's not visible to him, you, or anybody else. We wouldn't expect to see it. It's only in the maths. But he hasn't got the maths yet. So where's he getting it from? Because he's not looking at it. He can't see it. Refraction, according to everybody. You can't see your hand in front of your face, according to the globe rhetoric. Well, then how are you going to measure geometry? Answer, you can't. End of globe claim. Because it's a geometric claim. It's a claim that you can measure a hill getting in the way of stuff in the background. Well, if it isn't getting in the way and the stuff in the background's now in the foreground, then there isn't a hill in the way. There is no Earth curve. We've debunked it.
I
Any
like
more
what
to add?
Creation Bear said about the alphabet, but I do put it back in because I can't say the word ridiculous without it.
Indeed. Right, we're going to move on. We've been covering a bit of Professor Dave Explains, so basically any crap that people put in front of me, I really don't care what the video is or who's made it. We'll just pull it apart the same as everything else, like we've done with several up to now. So we've done one that was a fairly substantial YouTube channel with like 7.5 million views, where they have a group of 3 flat earthers versus a group of 3 globe believers. That was covered a couple of days ago. Yesterday we covered the dick and fart jokes taking place on Fight the Flat Earth channel for his 12-year-old audience. And prior to that, we've covered Dave Weiss, Jeranism, Hibbler, and Witsit Gets It against a guy called Bryant, who's claimed to be a professor, probably a school teacher or something. But anyway, that debate. So this was all kicked off by us taking apart, actually, more than anything else, flat earthers and their claims. But it subsequently moved on to the more mainstream anti-flat earth / globe claims. And in this case, we're going through Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel and his claims in regards to his belief that he's annihilated flat earth in some way, just to get you up to date. So far what he's done is he's making claims about how because it's his claim at this point, flat earth disk model works, which has been derived from a globe projection, which in turn was derived from the celestial sphere model, which in turn was measured from flat Earth angle measurements. So he's not doing very well so far.
They see this. Here is someone standing in another spot looking at the same moon. They see.
Really? So this is probably, I think at this point, a reification fallacy. We don't live on a model. Little blue and red men standing on a pizza pie that you fantasized is the world you live in, Dave, is just nonsense. It's a reification fallacy. The map is not the terrain. Yeah, look up reification fallacy. I know you don't like people barking it out without actually backing what it means, but go and look it up. Yeah? You're making this real where it's not. People don't stand on a pizza pie looking at moon cutouts when you fantasize them floating.
This too. And this person.
That's not a person. This is a reification fallacy. I know you don't like people pointing out fallacies. Maybe it's as you claim because they don't back up what that means. Okay? The map is not the terrain. Hello?
And this person. You get the idea.
Yeah, hypothesization. That's what you're doing. It's a reification fallacy. Third time.
So is this possible?
No, we don't live on a model. The map is not the terrain. Reification fallacy. Why are you asking if it's possible? Oh, of course, it's a straw man fallacy. We're in no doubt now. It's not his claim. He's asking why it's possible. So it's a straw man that you've held up. There's no clip of somebody saying this. It's just you've decided to either stereotype or straw man with this. Because I'm not claiming it's my model. I don't claim you should see anything. I'm not reifying little green, blue, and red, if that's their colour, I'm colourblind, men on a pizza pie that you've drawn out and you've reified.
No, because that's not how objects work.
So what, you're going to now burn your straw man? That's not how objects... Yeah, I just pointed that out. This is your reification fallacy. So you're going to burn your straw man of your reification fallacy by telling us it's not how it works? Who was claiming it, Dick Brain? You!
People on the opposite sides of an object can't see the same face of the object.
Oh, we've decided that the moon's got an opposite side. Prove it. There's a claim that Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel has just made in the affirmative. He's made a claim that the moon has got two sides. That's why I asked him earlier, when we were clarifying in the pre-show, what he meant by faces. Oh, so it's got two of them. Prove it. That's your claim now. I want you to prove the moon has got two faces. Prove it. Libration won't do.
Get two of your little buddies and have them stand on opposite sides of you. Can they both see the front of your face at...
Sorry, is Professor Dave's channel generally about sort of 9, 10, 11 years old and need this dumbing down to the point where we don't understand his reification of the moon having two faces by way of a positive assertion he hasn't backed? I mean, I've broken this down. I don't really need an example, Dave. Maybe your audience is pretty thick.
At once? No. A spherical moon over a flat Earth.
A spherical moon? What makes you imply that? So are we going to see the other face, are we, in your model? Or are you going to have an explanation for why we don't in both? Because these are both your claims at this point. You're about to set up a false dichotomy where no one's making the other side of the claim. This is stupid.
Earth is not considered.
Go on.
I was just going to ask, isn't he setting up a false dichotomy or false dilemma?
Yes.
Holding up two models?
Yes, he is, yeah. He's going to reify one on our behalf. That's a straw man fallacy. And then he's going to use his model that was derived from a globe projection that was derived from a flat Earth model that was made with flat Earth elevation angles as his own globe model. It isn't. He's going to put two flat Earths against each other.
Consistent with reality at all. So is it
two-dimensional like you're strawmanning us with? I don't think so. I don't know if anybody's claiming that. I'm pretty sure we've got mountains and valleys. Why would you claim it's two-dimensional? Is this just some stupid, dumbed-down strawman for a dumb audience that doesn't understand how fallacious you are? That you've told can't call fallacy on you? Wow, Dave?
Two-dimensional with the same face on both sides?
We're talking about the moon? Oh, you've decided that the moon's got two faces. You haven't proved it, though, have you? It's not even proven in your own model. It's not even claimed to be demonstrable or apparent, as you made such a big point about how apparent things are. But what, we're apparently got the other side that we don't see, that we should see on your straw man? No, Dave, this is a total fail.
Then anyone but these two people would see a different
Two people, they look like little characters on a reification fallacy to me, mate. They don't look like people.
shape. So no. Is it pointing down like a spotlight?
I don't know, again, who's claiming that? Again, if you're a flat earther that's claiming this, I've got no sympathy, and I would just take your stupid claim to pieces like Dave's doing it. I know he's using it as a strawman against you, who thinks this. It just wouldn't work on me and isn't now, just to give some clarity. I don't claim that, Dave. This is a straw man. I'm not claiming that. If this is about what flat earthers think, I am a flat earther. I do not think this or claim this. Oh, it's a stereotyping fallacy. Yeah, look it up, Dumbo. I'm not just throwing it out there. You're assuming that I make this as a claim because I call myself a flat earther? I don't. It's a stereotyping fallacy. Maybe look it up.
Then it would change shape as it...
Would it? What, if your stereotyping fallacy holds true with your strawman fallacy and your reification fallacy, using a model that's a global projection that's been derived from a flat earth model? Well, there's a lot of crap that has to go along with this assertion, Dave.
passes by and only appears circular when directly overhead.
Really? Oh, I see. Oh, based on your straw man that you're burning. No, mate. This won't fly.
So no. Is there any way we can make this work on a flat Earth?
Why? It's not my claim. Why would I make this as a positive assertion to justify when you have a heliocentric orbit for your moon? This is not a claim I need to defend. Let's just say once more, I'm sorry about this. If you're one of those numpty flat earthers that claims this, yeah, Dave would be having you over a barrel right now. Whereas I'm shouting at him for being stupid. I don't make this claim. You're the one with a globe claim with a ball moon floating around it in a sky vacuum. So don't reverse the burden, Dumbo. You're the one with a positive claim about this, not me.
No, there is not.
Nathan, pause.
Yes?
Pause. Yes. Even in their claim and their model, they never claim to see the other side of the moon, the dark side. So what's he getting at? He only sees one side.
Yeah, I covered that.
So how, pray tell, do all people see the same face of the moon?
Sorry, but you just claimed that we should be seeing two sides of it, and now you're going to go on to explain why we should or shouldn't see one side of it, given that your example had two sides being seen. Surely, to make your example sound, you'd show how we definitely do see both sides of it. Like you said, we should but don't on a flat Earth, but we should but don't on a globe either. Oh, I see. So you're going to make some apologetics for how your model fails in this example. This doesn't seem very sound or strong, does it? Especially as we're now moving on to the heliocentric claims that you actually do make in the positive, and I don't have to defend when they fail, even if you strawman us with them. Shout out to Godzilla, who is going to not get shotted out because I haven't refreshed my monitoring chat, so just bear with me while I do that. But thank you very much indeed for the super chat.
I can read it out for you.
Yeah, go ahead. It's going to take me another 30 seconds, so go ahead.
Yeah. Godzilla, super chat. I only wish the Earth had an edge. I'd push every YouTube glober right off it.
Thank you very much for the super chat, Godzilla.
They have an edge.
They have an edge. They have it blocking boats and buildings, indeed. We don't. Again, it's another one of those, they've got a positive assertion about an edge blocking boats and buildings, which they mathematically qualify as Earth curve. We debunked that with the Black Swan, by the way. So therefore, they ask us where our edge is. Yeah, this is the same. He's got a claim about what the moon does in an orbit, which he'll presuppose. So therefore, he's going to ask us how the moon works, because he's got a claim about it.
Because Earth is a sphere, and the...
Demonstrably not the case.
Have you owned or leased a diesel Volvo in the last...
God damn.
Hey everyone, so you may remember...
Did he just make a non sequitur conclusion like he had something?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hold on. John, do you want to sum that up while I find the video bit that I just accidentally skipped past?
And he said, therefore, the Earth is a sphere after just having a bunch of fallacious logic. That's not how a conclusion works. You got to have a consistent, logic to your statements, and then you can draw a conclusion. Not what he just did, and therefore, cheeseburgers. Like, There was no conclusion to draw from anything he said.
Yeah, it had no logical consistency behind it. Yeah? You should see this work as that in those circumstances, and they don't. Therefore, X. How is that logically connected? It isn't. It's just apologetics for how he's going to try and stereotype and strawman a flat earther into how they should say it works, and then offer up how he says it works. So instead of him offering up his positive claim, his extraordinary positive claim in the first instance, and wait for a rebuttal, he offers up the rebuttal as a strawman stereotyping fallacy, and then makes his positive claim, which is about to come. I've just seen it from spinning through it.
So how, pray tell, do all people see the same face of the moon?
I don't know what the moon is. I don't know if it's got more than one face. These are all positive assumptions that you're making and now trying to explain with your model that you'll beg the question of.
Because Earth is a sphere and the moon...
So we're going to have a visual depiction. Why haven't we got any photographs of this? Why is this a CGI? Oh, did he preemptively say that we cry out CGI? This is CGI. Fact. It is CGI. Why? Well, because he's going to visually show you how he begs the question of orbital motion. Now, orbital motion would require an R value. Also, for the distances assumed in the heliocentric orbital motion, you'd need to apply Kepler's third law and apply that R value for Earth, presupposed and not measured, to Venus. So he's assumed all of this just by showing you this computer-generated imagery, which is what it is. So he can beg the question of orbits. Why are you begging the question? Do you want to look that up too, Dave? I'm not just barking out the word fallacy. I'm not just saying begging the question. You are assuming your outcome in this argument. So because we've automatically got orbital motions in this CGI... No, Dave, that's begging the question, mate. You're guilty of a fallacy. Before you've even said anything, just by having these images on screen, you're begging the question.
Moon goes around the Earth.
No. That's a begging the question fallacy of orbital motion.
It is tidally locked with the...
No, again, just the same begging the question fallacy, repeated at nausea. No, that's you begging the question, mate. Assuming your outcome? No. You need to justify it, and the justification comes with an R value that we've debunked. So every word that's going to come off Dave's lips from this point forward is debunked by the fact that he can't measure R. So not a single word from this point forward in his heliocentric assumption is true. I'm tempted to just spin past it. We won't.
Earth, with one face always pointing towards the Earth.
If I beg the question of orbital motion based on an R value that's been debunked. No, you can't do that. We've debunked it. And it's a begging the question fallacy even if we hadn't.
That's why everyone sees the same face of the moon.
No, that's what happens when you beg the question and utilise an R value that's been debunked by way of a CGI rendering of an orbital motion you're begging the question of. That's what that is.
And that's the only way that...
Oh, really? It's the only way? Now, I don't need to offer an alternative to debunk this claim of how you say it works. Adding on to the end that it's the only way to invite people to offer an alternative won't work on me either. I've just debunked your orbital presupposition. I'm not going to offer an alternative. Just take a giant steaming dump on your assumption and then walk away laughing at you. What's that? It's the only way? Definitely not, because I've just debunked this.
Everyone can see the same face of the moon.
Yeah, we can. We established that earlier. Shut up in Discord or G+. Yeah, we established that earlier, didn't we, Dave? When you took us through a little affirmation ladder, probably written by someone else for you, where you got us all nodding along about seeing the same face, in quotes, that wasn't detailed and clarified in terms of what that meant. Yeah, we all nodded along to a certain extent, but that doesn't mean that the obvious and observable visions that we have of the moon in any way affirm this orbital presupposition. So no, Dave. This is a total... Is this why you turned me down when I invited you on? Carte Blanche said no. Wouldn't have enough script writers to come up with something comical. Whoever it was that was just trying to chat through me 3 times. Go ahead. Come on, you know who you are.
I don't think it was anybody.
I saw the line flashing.
Anybody was trying
yeah, it was. I can see the lines flashing. I know when someone's talking through me. Anyway, Clearly not.
And guess what? The direction the moon is pointing even correlates with the observer's latitude.
Latitude? That's an interesting word. Where did that come from? Anybody care to fill him in? As you're all being dominated by me at the moment in terms
Elevation angles.
It came from a flat Earth. So what are you talking about? Latitude lines? Yeah, you need to figure out how your model's been made, Dave, because you're going to need a flat Earth for that. Didn't you realise? This is a derivation of a flat Earth model. Have a sign projection from that flat Earth model. Didn't you realise? Further to that, this isn't a sphere, it's just a circle on a CGI, computer-generated image. Another one, even though you've told your audience that we can't just cry foul when you put up pictures that aren't pictures, that are just drawings. Well, that's what this is. It's not sphere-shaped either. But what you're describing is a convention that's come from flat Earth. Didn't you know?
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it is. It's a flat Earth proof.
Whether at the North Pole, South Pole, or anywhere in between.
South Pole? What South Pole? What's he talking about? Anybody know what he's talking about? Anybody at all?
He's still assuming R and a sphere at this point.
Well, no, he's using the antipodal celestial sphere model right now, the South Pole celestial pole. So he needs a flat Earth for that claim.
Sorry, I thought you'd talk the longer. I went and grabbed a drink. Right.
It's all right.
The orientation of the face of the moon that we all see will reveal your latitude on the spherical Earth.
By way of a convention that's been derived by flat Earth elevation angle measurements. So after you project those measurements onto the celestial sphere and then take that celestial sphere and apply the Haversine formula to make it into a globe, you're going to tell me that the elevation angle measurements and the phases that you see and we all agreed on that we have of the moon only work on a sphere? No, they don't. In terms of measurement, you can actually use the moon to navigate on maps, the ones that you were talking about earlier. But it requires a flat Earth to measure it. Didn't you know? All of this proves a flat Earth, Dave. Didn't you know?
Pretty neat, huh?
Very! I'm surprised you didn't realise you were proving a flat Earth. This is kind of the face I'd expect you to have when you have a flat earther that you can't strawman or stereotype, pointing out that all of your proofsies require a flat Earth.
Maybe one day you'll save up enough allowance that you can leave your mom's basement and...
Is he talking to himself? What is he talking to? Is he stereotyping flat earthers as living in their mom's basements? No, I'm definitely not living in my mum's basement. I'm married with 2 children. I'm also ripping you a new asshole based on the fact that every single thing you just said required a flat Earth. Hello?
see the moon from another part of the world.
Proving nothing.
So, my precious little learners, do you now see how pathetically fragile the flat Earth delusion is?
You used the flat Earth to develop these models you had as an example when you claimed the globe. So your model depends on a flat Earth, you stupid numpty. Without flat Earth elevation angle measurements, you wouldn't have these models. So you need a flat Earth. You know what we get told, Dave, when we point that out to people who actually come here that aren't cowards like you who have been invited to come but have turned down the opportunity. They tell us that we shouldn't get hung up on that flat plane that's required for your globe model. We shouldn't get hung up on it. You just don't know, do you, Dave? Because you get other people to do the research for you, right? You don't do the research. You don't know about this subject. Otherwise, you'd have realised your models came from a flat plane. You stupid numpty.
Of all the hundreds of individual isolated phenomena that rip it to shreds like...
Isolated phenomena? I thought you weren't going to talk about science. I thought these were the non-scientific proofs. But now we're talking about phenomena? Oh, of course he wouldn't be using those in science anyway, would he? He'd just be saying the word to make him sound more like a professor, because that's what his channel's called. He's not a professor, that's just the name of his channel. Professor Dave Explains it's just merely a title for a YouTube channel. Doesn't mean anything. But he's trying to make you think he is one when he uses words like phenomena, a term used in science. It's an effect happening in nature.
Like it was made of paper mache. Some of them don't even require an ounce of scientific knowledge.
You didn't present any, you can't present any, you don't have any for a globe. And what you did present required a flat earth, Dave. So you didn't do well. You definitely proved that the models, including the azimuthal equidistant north-centric projection you used, you didn't name it. I mean, I doubt you know what it is, obviously, given that you have your research handed to you because you're dumb. Yeah, thick. You need other people to do the research, so you don't know the name of that model you strawmanned us with. I do, because I'm actually learned in this subject. Learned enough to point out how you need a flat earth for the latitude lines, you say? Where do you think they came from? Maybe you should look into that, you stupid idiot.
They just require that you can think with your brain for 5 full seconds.
What, like you haven't done when you presented lots of flat earth proofs, as you just did? You didn't think for more than a second you got someone else to do all the research for you, stupid twat.
For today's conclusive proof, we didn't have to talk about physics.
What, you did? You talked about phenomena! We didn't have to talk about physics, you just did in the last 20 seconds, you stupid clown! What do you think phenomena is? The physically occurring things in nature? Phenomena? Physics? Physics specifically deals with phenomena! But you haven't had to talk about it. You don't even know the words coming out your own mouth, Dave. You say you haven't had to talk about it. You literally did 20 seconds ago! How thick are you? This is good fun. We should do this more. Shout out to
Yes, keep it going.
him's sake, whose super chats doesn't. It's a super sticker. It's got like a cup of coffee. Thank you very much for the super sticker. Really appreciate the support.
Nathan,
Yes.
did you see how condescending he is? My little precious learners living in the basement. Is he projecting?
Dave, are you sitting comfortably? Have you got your legs crossed? Because you're being educated by a flat earther. Everything you mentioned as proofsies of a globe was 100% reliant on measuring a flat plane with angles. Now toddle off to bed, little boy. Get yourself some snoozes. You'll need them.
Or astronomy, or space travel. We didn't have to do any math. There were no equations for you to misunderstand, or numbers for you to lie about. We just did a little bit of critical thinking.
No, you didn't. You rattled off some shit that some researcher gave you, and it was all wrong and proved the flat earth. How did you critically think about this? Had you have critically thought about it, you might have started defining some of the words like phenomena used in physics. Or latitude. You didn't do any critical thinking, you moron. Yeah, this really is good fun. I'm really enjoying this.
So now you can see how people figured out that the Earth is round.
What, by using flat earth elevation angle measurements? They didn't figure it out, they measured it flat and then used the Haversine formula to convert it into a globe. They didn't figure out that it was round, they converted it from a flat terrain that they measured. You stupid idiot. You should really double check your researchers' work, Professor Dave explains YouTube channel. You know, these researchers aren't doing you any favours, because an actual flat earther, that's me, is ripping you a new asshole. No wonder you declined when I invited you on.
Thousands of years ago, before...
Thousands? You're going to prove that? Is this your proof of it? This oil painting is your proof of thousands of years ago they were saying it was a globe Earth? Au contraire. They still knew how to do celestial navigation then.
Before science even existed, because they weren't stupid.
Define science, Professor Dave explains YouTube channel. Before science even existed, it was developed. It's a method, an empirical method developed by philosophers. What are you talking about?
They had access to basic logic. And
the method of science is based in logic. If A, then B, or if A, not B. That's logic!
and were able to comprehend simple proofs like this one.
Proofs? What, like empirical evidence? Look up proof. Look up, define some of these words. He's just literally projecting, saying that we don't have any critical thinking skills as he reads off his script. I mean, literally, you've demonstrated absolutely no critical thinking skills whatsoever. Professor Dave explains, YouTube channel.
Of which there are dozens. Just like you, they didn't know anything about gravity or force.
Gravity? Gravity, they don't need to know anything about it. It was only developed by Einstein about 1905. So why would somebody thousands of years ago comprehend let's just get the title right for Dave because he thinks gravity's real. It's a pseudo-Ramonian force space-time bending. Do you know what pseudo means, Dave? It's the title of the geometry of the concept of gravity. It's in a pseudo-geometry, fourth dimensional space-time bending. Now, in reality, time doesn't bend. Time doesn't dilate. Time is not a geodesic. So this is not a proof, see? And it's inconsequential what people thought 1,000 years ago in regards to some numpty called Einstein developing a geometry in a pseudo realm that we don't exist in. Okay, it's not science. It's Einstein's concepts.
Forces or cosmology.
Not forces. Gravity hasn't been a force since, what, 1907? Why are you claiming that it's a force? It was superseded by Einstein in what, I think it was 1906. So since 1907, there is no force of gravity. It's not claimed to be a force. Man, again, do some research, do some critical thinking when you say it's a force. You want some quotes from actual professors? Professor Brian Cox. Not, I'll pretend to be a Professor Dave explains, I'll say gravity's a force, as he's just done. An actual professor of this shit. That's Professor Brian Cox. There isn't really a force of gravity at all. End quote. Professor Cox. So who the fuck do you think you are, calling yourself a professor and talking about forces of gravity, when there's actual professors of this shit saying there isn't really a force of gravity at all? Just a stupid, dumb, lying moron claiming to be a professor and pissing in the face of actual professors who talk about gravity not being a force. Why does Professor Cox correctly identify it? Not as a force, but as a bending conceptual medium. Well, that's because it's a bending conceptual medium known as pseudo-Ramonian force space-time, Dave. Maybe if you knew your own bloody rhetoric, you'd know that. Rather than declaring incorrectly that gravity's a force. It's not. Thick. How do they taste, Dave? You stupid pretender clown.
And just like you, they had no idea what the moon is or what...
Oh, really? Professor Dave explains professes to know what people thought 1,000 years ago. Is that what they thought? Is that what it said in your crystal ball, Mr. Divine of the thoughts of 1,000 years ago? Wow, Dave, how arrogant to be able to declare to an audience probably a lot larger than mine that you can divine the thoughts of people 1,000 years ago. That makes you sound very stupid, my friend. Don't profess to know the thoughts of people 1,000 years ago, Dave, because some flat earther will come along and point out how stupid that is.
What the sun is or what the stars are.
They didn't know any of that, according to you and your crystal ball. Wow, you know a lot about people's thoughts 1,000 years ago, Dave. Where'd you get that information from? Which researcher provided that?
And they figured it out all the same.
Oh, they did they? They figured using maths? Now, if they figured anything about the Earth, they'd have figured with celestial navigation that they had to have a flat plane beneath their feet to get angles from it. That's measuring. So maybe you'll back up this figured, that's maths, it out, that's measured, 1,000 years ago when he divines their thoughts with his crystal ball. I've just evidenced how celestial navigation needed elevation angles 1,000 years ago and now. Is he going to do that? Or is he just going to tell you that the people he knows what they think 1,000 years ago figured it out without any evidence? Let's see if this is a baseless assertion fallacy, Dave. Let's see.
Because they didn't have to know what these objects are. They just had fully functional brains.
Oh, I see. Dave says that the people whose thoughts he divined from 1,000 years ago had fully functional brains, therefore knew that they'd figured out that elevation angle measurements work on a curved baseline, Dave. They don't. Figuring it out would be measuring it, and measuring it means taking angles from it to the stars and shit. Like to make the maps that you use that are derived from flat maps that were based on spheres, you say? Projections of spheres. Yeah, they were derived from the flat Earth sphere, celestial sphere model. That's a flat model. The ground's flat in it. So this is shite. Your evidence is to say they figured it out because you say they've got intelligence and brains? I say they could only be measuring elevation angle measurements of a flat plane, Dave. Doesn't seem like you're backing your claim. I'm definitely backing mine. Again, no wonder you didn't want to face me here. Shocking, isn't it?
And a basic capacity for spatial reasoning.
Oh, Dave's divined that they all had good spatial reasoning back 1,000 years ago. My wife can't parallel park today, but the people 1,000 years ago had excellent spatial reasoning according to this twat.
So before you go and spew some emoji-laden nonsense in the...
Or refute you wholeheartedly and entirely. I'm not spewing emojis. I'm taking apart your requirements for flat Earths and flat Earth elevation measurement angles. Yeah? They prove we're on a flat plane. And they also are required to give those model straw men that you use and your globe model you think you're standing on. That'll have a teeter-tottering flat plane if you're doing navigation. That'll be transposed to the centre of it. That's what you'll be doing, Dave. Of course, I know what I'm talking about. I don't need any researchers.
Comment section, take a moment to reflect and admit...
I did. I took less than a moment with every word you said. Literally instantaneously, I could refute your shite. Didn't take a moment. It was instantaneous, mate. My fully functioning brain worked to rip apart your nonsense before you'd finished your sentences. Yeah? A moment? I didn't need it.
Admit to yourself that what we went over here today
proved the flat Earth by way of elevation angle measurements that were needed to prove that your maps have been derived from those exact measurements, my friend. That's what I'll be reflecting on. Let's see what summary Dave tells you, his audience member, that's stupid you should be divining from this crap.
Is irrefutable. There is no way around it. Your usual whinings of conspiracy and CGI...
Whinings about them, you use them when you beg the question of orbital motion. I covered that too. You're going to reiterate that we shouldn't moan about your CGI that you used. I mean, maybe you should have some photos of an Earth from space in an orbital motion rather than using the computer-generated images you're telling your audience not to moan about in the comments section. Oh, wow, wonderful. Preemptively telling them what they can and can't debunk, eh, Dave? Yeah, I didn't really pay much attention to that, Dave, you smiling smug twat. I just ripped you a new one for an audience. It was really good fun.
Have no place here. There is no science for you to blatantly...
No science for us to what? Whatever pull apart from a globe because they don't have any? And you wouldn't know what it was because you said you wasn't talking about it after mentioning phenomena 30 seconds earlier. You stupid clown.
Deny. It's just basic logic that even...
Basic logic that you didn't employ. You used a non sequitur fallacy. You didn't employ any logical soundness whatsoever. John pointed that out.
A toddler could understand. If you
That's an ad hominem fallacy, poison in the well.
Can't wrap your head around this, there truly is no hope for you.
So if you can't wrap your head around this, which I've demonstrated you didn't and you couldn't and you haven't, then there's no hope for you. I agree, Dave. Given that definitely, as I've just demonstrated, you couldn't wrap your head around this stuff, there's no hope for you, mate. Go ahead, whoever.
That was me. I mean, this is so excellent. Yeah, this is just part one. Wait until you get 2 and 3.
I was thinking that there's really no difference than when the ballers actually come on here and us doing this, as they just reassert the same things over and over again anyway.
That's correct.
Quick shout out to Blue Ridge Ranger. He says, will someone please send me a wheelbarrow full of helium? I have a bunch of balloons I want to fill up. Yeah, I mean, according to them and their gravitational claims, gas go down, go boom, boom. So wheelbarrow full of helium coming right your way from some globe-believing muppet, I guess. Thank you for the super chat, Blue Ridge Ranger. Where are we at? 47 minutes into this live show. Let's carry on.
So take a deep breath, let the facts in.
All of your models needed a flat plane. That was great. Thanks, Dave.
And push the delusion out.
Elevation angle measurements coming from a curved surface. Gone. Thanks. I enjoyed that too.
Have a nice day.
I will, Dave. After ripping you a new asshole. You take it easy.
Excellent. This is so good. Just keep 2 and 3 coming because this is one whole show.
Yeah, we'll do them next week. Jolly good. If you've got a show that you want us to cover, if you want us to look at the flat Earth debate as it exists on YouTube, as we've just done with Professor Dave Explains YouTube channel, then link it in the comments, or at the very least, if it won't let you post a link, which is often the case, give me the exact title. So say, go and have a look at Destroying Flat Earth Without Using Science -Part 1: the Moon. Then I'll be able to type that in and find it immediately, if that was what your particular video that you had a problem with. It doesn't have to be globe earthers. If you have a flat earther video that you feel we have to identify as talking complete crap, no worries. I've got as many globe earth audience as I have flat earth audience, and you're just as valuable to me. If you're watching, Dave, thank you so much. Subscribe today. But like I
Got
said,
someone
feel
in
free.
chat talking nonsense.
Plenty of flat earth nonsense out there. We'll pull it all apart. I don't care who it comes from.
This
Well,
guy
you know,
Nicholas, let me just say, this guy Nicholas Pitts, he's saying radon and O3 gases will pool and puddle. He's claiming it stays down on the ground.
There are no exceptions. Gases expand in all directions. They're not bonded.
Claims they have weight. You can weigh them when you compress them into liquid. I really don't know what he's talking about.
Get him to give you a link to evidence of his claim, and we'll have a look at it. So are we breathing those gases? What gases did he say?
Radon.
Are we breathing those gases? Are
R-A-D-O-N?
those the constituent parts of the majority of the air that we're breathing, as visualized and claimed to be sat in a second law of thermodynamics for sky vacuum when attached to a sphere Earth? Are those the gases he's detailing?
I told him, come on the show.
He's detailing the denser gases that will seem to puddle, but they're not actually puddling. They're still following gas behavior because they're gas. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Is he talking about introducing gases into existing gases?
Yeah, he's having trouble with diffusion and effusion.
I see. So what he's describing is already fairly closely packed together gas like we all have here. So the gas that's surrounding you, there's a lot of it. You know, it's all bashing into each other because it's all quite close together. So if you introduce another gas into that already existing gas system, then yeah, it can appear to take a time to diffuse into the rest of the gas as it hits other gas particles that are already in existence in the space it's trying to occupy. It's not a space anymore, it's occupied by other gas. So when you show how gas diffuses, it's like the sulfur hexafluoride example. They bring in a container sulfur hexafluoride and they pump it into another container, a fish tank, with a cardboard lid. And then they take a tin foil boat and float it on the top of the gas. You go, wow, look, gas go down, go boom, boom. No, they've introduced a gas into existing gas. So that room was already full of gas. Now do the same thing with sulfur hexafluoride and disperse it into a vacuum, like it's supposed to be surrounding the globe Earth. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to sit at the bottom of the vacuum? No, it's going to behave like every other gas because it's a gas. It's just going to explode out into all directions and fill the volume instantly. That's what gas does. All right, but if I introduce it into an already existing gas pressure, where did you get the existing gas pressure from? What's his name? Parks something? Where did you get the existing gas pressure from? To give us this example of introduction of a different gas into an already in existence gas pressure system. Where did you get the existing gas pressure system from? I'll tell you where you got it from. It must have containment. So to have this example, first you've got to have a gas in existence, in containment, for you to pump a different gas into it, to say, look, it looks like it's staying at the bottom as it slowly diffuses through the gaps in all the other gases. Wow, crap example. Of course, I mean, put that to us. Join the show. Because it's great.
His name is Nicholas Pitts. I told him, come on the show and state your claim.
We've just taken it apart in its entirety and explained how his example works. He probably didn't understand he was introducing a gas into an existing gas system and just showing the effects of diffusion. That's an entropic effect. Hello?
I think Adam once described how in a propane tank at the bottom, it's the heavy concentrated liquid form, and then as you use it from the top valve, it's transformed into the gas. Something to that effect. I think he's just on the show now. Maybe he could go through that.
He's saying gas has mass and it has weight.
Okay.
Well, when
So-
you take a heavy when you take an empty propane tank, it's light. When you fill it with gas, it's heavy. So what's he saying?
Oh no.
I'm saying please share the show if you're really enjoying this content currently. So us doing these little reaction videos to the various different anti-flat earth rhetoric nonsense that's out on the circuit. Some of it's old, some of it's going to be new. But yeah, please share the show. This is the cutting edge of flat earth. What you will get here, if you want to be on the side of flat earth, is information that is useful. You can use it to disseminate the information about a flat earth to next man or next woman. Or, if you prefer, debunking the globe claim to next man or next woman. That's what you get here. So please share the show.
I have a full question from him. So he says, helium goes up, radon goes down. If we are talking about natural science, when is the Earth not there? It will sit at
what
the
did he say?
bottom as
Hold on,
long
Neil,
as
you're going
you
too
are
fast.
on Earth. Down remains.
What did you say goes down? Helium goes up, what goes down?
Radon goes down.
Where's that created? There's clouds of this little ray what?
At radon.
Radon's produced in the sky? Is that right? Is Adamir?
And he says it will
Hold
sit
on.
at the bottom as... Okay.
Hold on.
Sorry.
One thing at a time. You hear, Adam?
Yeah, I thought radon was from uranium.
That's
It's a
rocks.
product, isn't
That's
it?
rocks.
Yeah, which is rocks.
Uh,
Which are on the ground, not in the sky.
Sorry, that is not created in the sky, you complete moron. Nicholas Parks, you'll now be branded a clown. Do you think the rocks that produce this gas are in the sky? No, my friend, it's produced at ground level like all of the gases and makes its way up. So what the hell are you babbling about? It's produced at ground level.
Nathan, ray down and down sound familiar. He could have made a mistake.
Well, he thinks it sounds like down, so he'll just claim it's going down when it's produced at ground level. If it's produced at ground level, it's not going down. Even if it got back to its origin, it's not going down. It would have to go underground to ever claim it's gone down because its origins are the ground. So down is below ground. What you say, it's in the sky coming back towards its origin? That's still not down, though, isn't it? It's already gone up, though. It had to because it was produced at ground level. Like all gases, they all do that. None of them are going down. They all expand in all directions. That's what gas does.
Yeah, he's got a downward vector.
From the rocks down.
Yeah, and it's the rocks. This is the point. So saying like dangers in terms of, concentrations gathering in houses. So I just looked at that, but all of that concentration is the radon going up through the ground into the house, or then escaping because it's not gone in the house and then carrying on into the air. But there's no down radon that I can see. It's all going up,
But does this clown in chat maybe want to clarify with this? Do you think that this gas has poured into the house from the sky? You stupid moron! Hello?
He said if you dig a hole, radon will go down more.
From the sky? It's being produced in factories, poured into these holes? Is it? We got radon sky factories. Hello? Are you thick?
Nathan, sorry to interrupt. I had a few words on things going down. I should just read them out.
Yeah, I guess. Yes, please.
Called What's Going Down. My good lady used to have a downward vector, but of late, something just won't.
Right, stop. Is this going to be filthy?
No. She seems more distant, hasn't got the time. like she's in a fourth dimension at times. It's like the old days have turned around. It's true, I guess. Not everything goes down. I try to stay positive, keep my hopes high. Prevent my dream shattering and falling from the sky. Things just ain't like they used to be. A bit like Newtonian gravity. My good lady used to have a downward vector, but of late something just won't let her. She told me she needs more space and time. I said, okay, that's fine. I'm patient, and I don't want to force the issue, but it's true. Things don't go down just like they used to. It's true that things change, but we can't change time. That's just a strange idea in our minds. So let's not be sad that not everything goes down and walk around with a downward frown. Let's keep looking up and spreading our love, just like expanding gas particles would.
Well, thank you very much. That was absolutely brilliant. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams, make sure that my mic is actually open on this outro today. Then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. I think I may have missed a couple of super chats because of technical issues, so massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Well, they got to assert things are falling down, you know, and they're like, oh, look at this, it's falling down, ignoring what it does in isolation or the fact that it's, you know, already being introduced into a system that already has gases. You know, forget all that. If we can set up a situation where it does go down, we can deny that it, you know, conforms to its container. You know.
So if I imagine being a gas particle inside of a tank of a propane, and three of us are going, one's going up, one's going left, one's going right, and the one going down, we all look at each other and say, how come he's going down and we're going this way?
Hold on, I had a good one. I said Nick Pitts is a plumber.
Neil, yeah, that was like a minute ago.
You didn't acknowledge my pun.
You just destroyed my three gas particles, trying to wondering why they're not going down.
They are going down, according to Nick Pitts.
Well, down is a direction in all directions. So, you know, maybe one out of all directions. Like,
does it stay there?
How are people not getting that? I don't. That has to be willful ignorance.
Does it remain there?
They're fighting against gas pressure needing containment.
Well, see, the thing is, if it wasn't on this show, if you just walked up to this person that's saying this right now, and they were not thinking about flat Earth, they would not have a problem with needing a container to have gas. They wouldn't assert that gas falls down, go boom, boom. They wouldn't say anything stupid like that. It's just this topic that turns people into like mentally handicapped.
Yeah, exactly. Because you've just disturbed their paradigm. That was excellent,
I told
Nathan.
him come on. I told him come on the show, but he doesn't. I guess he's shy.
He's not going to come. He's Professor Dave's brother-in-law or something. Then he ain't gonna show up. That was a great summary you did on part 1. Let's not allow the weekend to go by and you forget to do part 2 and 3 Monday. Okay, just keep it going because I like to have this one thing in one show.
Wait a second. Today's Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. The outcome of you doing this, Nathan, with each of these so-called ballers or anti-flat earthers is that you're going to accumulate a file that anyone could just go to from your recorded videos to send to someone. Guess what's being sent to new flat earthers? Professor Dave, Fight the Flat Earth, Mr. Sensible. And then all what you're doing is categorizing how foolish they are and illogical. And then when you tear them apart with logic, and then someone could say, oh yeah, this guy, and then sends your video right back to them. This arms that brand new flat earther who doesn't know what to say.
I've already sent the link of that video to Professor Dave.
Oh, jolly good, because I've just put him in the thumbnail.
Yeah, I was about to say, is there any way to link their video to your video so that people that are interested in his video or give that a thumbs up can see your video next?
No, I don't think so. That's just down to the
Does
algorithm.
anybody see that these are 2015 arguments? Like anything modern, like today?
It doesn't matter, Neil, because it's really for the purpose of the new person. It's their friend says, you're a stupid flat earther. Look what this Professor Dave says. And he sends him Professor Dave video. And that guy doesn't know what to say. Now he has choices. He can send this video. But Nathan, if you label your video as a response to his title, it might come up in the search right next to it.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I appreciate what you're suggesting. I'm not ignoring you.
We want Nathan to go mainstream.
No, we know you're not ignoring us, and you're busy doing the title.
No, it's not that I'm busy.
Pictures
No.
Pushing buttons.
Just can't be bothered to explain that is not how the algorithm works. There is no way I can in any way influence how my video comes after people watching Dave's video. I can't do that. I mean, we can sit here all day and talk about how I could do it, but I know I can't. So I just want to say, look, yes, I understand what you were saying would be wonderful. If I could do that, yeah, I would put my video in front of everyone's, wouldn't I?
No, that's a different topic. That's a different thing that you don't have control over. But if I type in, what's the title of his videos? Proving flat earthers wrong without science, something to that effect. Well, if you have a similar title, that might show up.
No, but you can do what John asked. What you can do is put it in the link description or as a pinned comment at the top.
We've lost you. You went from being really clear to now being 100% muffled at sort of 10%
Yesterday, all day too.
Pinned comment or
something wrong with your mic, Eli. Eli, this bit yesterday on the show, when it got to you and I couldn't hear you, I just skipped forward. I'm just telling you how it is. That's how people will be when they can't hear you. We can't hear you.
It's got to be something with your mic because even in the after show yesterday, you were fading in and out.
That was the most epic after show yesterday.
It was.
Me and Brian finished at 12:30. Choco left about 10:30. Same as he. A record-breaking after show yesterday, Nathan.
No, I buggered off quite early.
Yeah.
I had to leave the earliest. I had my Thursdays. I have to leave at a certain time, so I missed that whole thing. Adam, you have to give me a summary.
Oh, we set the world to rights.
We covered everything.
Oh, perfect. Eli's trying to check the mic.
Check. Eli.
Pinned comment.
No, no, it's no good.
No good.
No bueno.
Let's just go and watch that Professor Dave's video and just bombard it with comments and put the link of your show in the comments as well. Just all hit it.
I don't think that will make any difference. I honestly don't. it might help his views.
Well, we do, Nathan. We do.
Okay. It's not like I've been doing this for about 15 years or anything.
No,
We
that's
want you
listen.
to go mainstream. We're trying to push you mainstream. Millions
Listen,
of people watching.
This doesn't need any extra effort. All we gotta do is keep doing what we're doing with the new format. Take down every person that fights us, the way that Professor Dave and Plain Rock or whoever, and just make a file of them. And then people will go to that file and just send them back to the people who sent the Dave video or the other video, and it will
Well, hold on.
naturally organically grow.
Nathan was using his mute button and not allowing Professor Dave to speak.
Well, that's only because he's reviewing the commentary.
Or we could just continue to share the show and share the show and
Unlike the
share the
others,
show.
I actually invited Dave on after he debated Dave Weiss. I contacted him immediately and said, I'd like to talk to you on my show. When are you available? And he went, no.
He'll never come here. He knows better.
Well, he kind of just did come here against his will.
Well, that's public domain, though. I mean, the guy is condescending. He totally talks down to people who don't agree with him, and then they got tore apart with his faulty logic. So the natural course will take effect.
This does seem kind of like the natural progression of this argument. If they're too scared to show up, which
got to take it to them.
Yeah, it does seem like an offensive move without going on to their terms where they can silence you.
John, it's devastating. Wait until we do have a couple of dozen of these. Wait until it starts being sent around. Nathan's going to gain subscribers. This is what people want: a real live debate where they could learn back and forth. But then they won't give us that because they stop coming. So now this is the next best thing. We'll take what they're doing, and they're saying, "Dang it, we didn't think they'd ever pull this move. We sound silly after that critique. We're going to have to make a new video." So they're going to make a new video on the video Nathan made, and then we'll come back and take that one. This could be great. We control it. Right now, you control that.
If you don't mind me chiming in, I do have a question. So something that Professor Dave seemed to have an issue understanding was, I guess, David Weiss's explanation of the sun rising in the different seasons. And Professor David seemed to have a real issue with it and couldn't either understand it or rebuttal that point. And I'm not sure if I understand it completely. Do you guys understand Weiss's comparison?
No. What's the comparison? Can you lay it out?
I believe it was something along the lines of during the sun is claimed to be further away in the summer, right? But at a more severe tilt in the globe model. And what David Weiss was then comparing that to was sunrise and sunset being its furthest, and that would
Owen, he hasn't finished.
But it's claimed to. It's not appearing to.
No, you missed the point. What Weiss was saying, but let the gent finish, and then.
Yeah, and then Weiss was comparing that to what we observe. I guess you could say in reality is a lower sun, but at a more severe angle. The same kind of during the sunrise or sunset, the same kind of angle the globe claims disperses more heat. And why wouldn't we have that heat morning and night, every morning, every night?
So it's the elliptical orbit and the differential of the R value of the orbit. So there's the paradoxical fact that for the northern hemisphere's winter, we are 3 million miles closer to the sun than in our summer. And that's explained away because of parallel sun rays and the tilt angle. Apparently, nothing to do with the extra 3 million miles. I think that's David Weiss's claim of nonsense within the globe model
Correct.
season.
So Dave Weiss is stressing what the globe model claims in terms of the sun being further away in summer. Right, that's what he's explaining. Then he's following that up by saying, why wouldn't we have that effect when the sun's on the horizon at day and night? And that's what you're asking about. Okay. Semi-reasonable, right? Not entirely reasonable, because Dave's asking why something wouldn't happen in a system they're describing with an R value assumption. So their description of us being closer in summer or further away in summer, depending on where you are, right? That's necessitated by their heliocentric R value assumptions, and then explained away as being, well, we're just closer to it in winter. I know that doesn't sound like it's right, but because of the tilt, it all works out. Well, that's an apologetic for their assumptions of R, giving them a distance that's not conducive with the seasons. So there's no need for us to explain how it works, because we're not making a claim with it. It's wrapped up in their heliocentric orbital claim. Therefore, they have to justify it. We don't. But the reason I say semi-reasonable is because when Dave asks that question, it seems like he's asking about an inconsistency with how the model dictates where the sun would be in relation to your view, and how we actually see the sun in relation to our view, and how those two things don't tally. That's actually semi-reasonable, right? It's a pretty good point. Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree. I think it is something that Professor David was not really able to explain away on the spot or since.
So yeah, so kudos Dave Rice. Good point. You had Professor Dave explains YouTube channel YouTuber over a barrel with that. And it's a pretty good point.
Parallel sun rays.
That's, I think,
How did-
justification, yeah.
How do you measure parallel sun rays?
Do you want to expand on how that doesn't fit into the argument based on the heliocentric claim, John?
Well, yeah, let's say to assert they're parallel, first you got to measure the angles that they're coming in at to assert they're parallel.
Do you follow that? No tanks? Don't be afraid to say no.
No, I mean, I do. I understand that they assume parallel sun rays. I guess not assume, but they assume, I guess, from the center of the sun at all times.
Yeah, parallel.
Right. But to measure them on Earth, even if you assume they're parallel, you'll need a flat plane for that.
Celestial navigation cannot work on their model without the sun rays assumed parallel. That's why it has to be parallel. But what John is saying is that when you go to say, well, how do you know they're parallel? If they say we measured it, it's over. You need a flat plane to measure.
No, in their model, they're talking about the celestial sphere model. They have to be parallel, and when they apply their suppositions afterwards.
Right. So what you're saying is, okay, so they come in parallel to the tangent plane with a globe dangling below it, so that they can move it to the center of the presupposed spherical Earth, actually the equatorial plane. They say they come in parallel. I think that's John's point.
Yeah, I didn't lose that point at all. I'm just saying that when they put that dingleberry without the tangent plane, the way they get a corresponding angle on the surface with a tangent plane is to have that angle hit the equatorial plane and showing an angle, and then they just move it up to the one on the surface with a tangent plane, because you can't get one from a curved baseline. And then they have one of a plane, airplane with a bubble section, using a horizontal given by the spirit level, which is fictitious, but it's parallel to everything else.
Right. So
No
they either show
mentioned.
it. They either show it as the equatorial plane flat out. In other words, they just show you a flat plane with a dome of the heavens over it, or they show light rays traversing through the solid rock of a globe Earth with you standing in the molten iron core. One or the other, because that's the only way it works. But either way, John's saying, well, doesn't matter. If you're going to say they come in parallel and you're measuring them, you're going to need a plane to measure them from. Doesn't matter if it's a teeter-tottering plane on the top of the sphere that you've transposed up from an equatorial plane when you measured it through the rock at the molten iron core. It's all, as I described on the live show, bollocks, isn't it?
Basically, yeah. Yeah, you need a flat plane for that. You can't introduced the idea of a curved adjacent to get parallel. So
Well, John,
even
you shared this with the stick in the shadow and Eratosthenes as well. It's the same thing.
yes, yeah, he needed a flat plane to measure the angle to the sun.
Did you want to do the other 2 Dave videos next week?
Oh, absolutely. You need to keep these 3 together so that you can have one show, all 3 together. I was hoping you'd do it today and to the after show, but you had other plans.
Yeah, strike it out a bit.
Okay, fine. As long as you label them 1, 2, 3, or combine them so that it's one show of yours, so that when they see his 3, your 3 are right there.
Well, they'll come out consecutively. I might edit them together. It will be a very long video because we did the majority of the live show, like 40 solid minutes on that, and it's only a 10-minute.
No, I don't mean that you have to put them out in one show. You can, like, if you did it today, all 3, you could break it up into 3 parts because his is in 3. So here's answer to Dave, Professor Dave's 1. Here's a rebuttal to his 2, and here's rebuttal to his 3. Have 3 of them, but have them titled so for that people can compare to him and you.
How come you were in the after show till midnight? What were you talking about?
Oh, Eli. Oh, I feel like a lot of American politics, but it was more along the lines of we're kind of going through videos like we're doing here, but American politics, but just like drawing the analogies between the way the politicians lie, cheat, use fallacy. I'm just kind of laughing at that, saying, well, that's what a baller says, that's how, but so there's a bit of this, bit of that. Race, religion, all sorts of stuff. Eli's dodgy mic. So yeah, just good old natter.
Fair enough. Now, I've had a newfound enthusiasm since doing these shows. I don't know who came up with the idea. I think it's very good.
Why did you think it wasn't going to work out? And why are you saying you found a new enthusiasm? What made you change your opinion?
I think I just finished off getting the computer stable. Now I'm tweaking with it in an aesthetic and, slightly auditory way, in the respect that I'm going to fit some new fans over the weekend that I've bought secondhand on eBay. But I'm not sitting here going, oh no, what's the GPU rate on the iGPU running? What's the temperature on my RAM? What's the temperature of my normal main GPU? What's the temperature of my CPU? What frequency is it running at? What voltage is it running at? What's the overclock for all core running at? What's the underclock for a single core running at? I'm not worried about any of that shit anymore because I've sorted it all out. So I can just sit here and focus on doing the show rather than sit here and looking at numbers.
You know what you just did? Oh, I love you, Nathan. You know what you just did? You just painted a picture in my mind that any one of these globers or anti-flat earthers with their highfalutin videos and claims and views and whatever, that's secondary. Your computer and GPU, that's main. And then, oh, hang on. Okay, I kind of got it stable now. What video do you want me to remark on?
Yeah, that is how it is. Well, it's a daily show, isn't it? So the crux of the show, if you're just making the odd video, right, like Professor Dave explains, then in many ways it doesn't matter if you make half of it on one computer and then you stop for a day, have a break, have a cup of tea, come back to it and load it up on a different computer, gather the data on an iPad, make your photographs and CGI on a Mac, and then compile it all over a week's worth of work into one video and then bosh that out, right? Then it doesn't matter how well your hardware works. Whereas if you're doing a daily live show, it is paramount that the computer works perfectly.
Yeah, I know, but that's not what I'm commenting on. I'm commenting on how you just poured salt on their wounds. Like, this is your hobby. Your main thing is your computer and how it runs and functions, CPU, GPU, all these things. And oh, by the way, I can take down Professor Dave here. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, back to my computer. I mean,
well, as much as I'm not following along with that vein of thought, I'd prefer to argue against it. But I am going to be fitting some new fans, so, you know, I can't really argue, can I? Because that's what I'm going to be entertaining myself with, some second-hand Noctuas. They're really nice.
That's
S12As.
the confidence. That's the confidence that you exude, because you know the argument's over. You know that they violated every aspect of true science, and they're using pseudoscience. So you're at ease, you're comfortable. You're sleeping well at nights, I guess is what I'm saying.
Should I show them? Should I be so brazen? So these...
See, you just did it to me. You just did it to me. Here I'm trying to make a point for the show, and you're still trying to push your computer over there.
I'm going to go on camera and do it.
Come on.
So these on camera. Let's see if I'm on. There we go. These are my new second hand from eBay. Chromax Black Noctua S12As. So these are an airflow fan. So hold on, I'll just grab the replacement. So I've just pulled out 2 of 4 fans that the PC came with, which are these. Now these are Noctua also, but these are Redux, which are about a 20-year-old design that they've just rebranded as Redux, and they're horrible. They make a shitload of noise. Their only redeeming feature is that they turn off. So that's a Redux fan, which is actually bigger. So that's 140mm, and this is 120mm. And if you put them next to each other, you can see that one lets a lot more air through. There's gaps. So it means that when they're off, this one doesn't preclude the air going through up through the computer, whereas this one, there's hardly any gaps in it. So when it's off, it stops the hot air and traps it inside the computer when it's not running. So it's a passive PC, so you want them to turn off. So these are the 2 that are going to go in over the weekend. These are the ones that have come out and aren't in there. And yeah, very pleased to be showing you my fans.
Riveting.
I can't see your fans.
Riveting.
Wait, did you say you had a new second-hand fan, or
Yes.
did you have a second-hand new fan?
Both. So I've got a new fan. I've got 4 fans made by Noctua that are grey, that are Redux fans that are brand new and came with the PC new, but they are cheap, nasty fans that are new. So what I've replaced them with is one that's coming that isn't here yet, that's by a completely different manufacturer, but 2 Noctuas that are from a much more expensive line. Their most expensive line, which is called Chromax, which are the only brand they sell that aren't in poo brown and beige, but they're just much, much nicer fans. They're modern. You know, they've had a lot more development in terms of making them quiet and efficient, i.e. they pump out a lot of air from the computer when they're needed. And they've got nice wide gaps. So yes, they're second-hand and they've come from eBay, but hopefully I haven't actually tested them yet. But over the weekend when I test them, I am hoping they will be considerably quieter than the new, actually a 20-year-old design, Redux fans that I was taken out. There you go.
Do you have any fans of your fans?
You seem to have missed a joke that second-hand and new are kind of mutually exclusive, but that's okay. You were too preoccupied thinking about your fans.
I can't see your fans. Sorry, mate. I can't see the fans at the moment, but are they just like are they like an axial fan, like a square black axial fan?
Yes, that's just a PC fan.
Yeah, I can get
They're
loads of them.
just like anti-flat earther fans, except they
Owen's
serve-
decided that you're not going to be talking one deck. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just saying, if they're black axial fans, I can get them for nothing. Of all sizes, 120mm by 15mm, I can get loads. So if you ever need any of them, I can just get them to your FOC.
Then you're the man. Well, thank you for the offer. Now, these are specific ones. So Noctua are good because they do lots of different SKUs for lots of different purposes. So they're weird if you ever go and look at a review for Noctua fans, because some people will put them into an application and go, they're garbage. I'm like, well, you've put them into the wrong application. So they've got very specific applications, and I have a very specific use case. So there's very few fans that turn off. That might sound like a weird thing to say, but if you look at your PC now, if it's got fans, they're running, right? I don't want that. I want them all to turn off. Like all of them, I mean that. All the fans not running. That's the ideal. And then as it heats up and becomes overwhelmed, I want maybe one fan to turn on. And then if that becomes overwhelmed, maybe a couple, and so on and so forth. So the top fans, if they do come on, they must be silent. Anyway, go on.
Are you saying you're not a fan of your fans? But
I'm
you
not a
have
fan
to-
of Redux,
now,
no.
now he's gonna steal my joke. Well, I can't talk through with my joke. This is just
Done to
great.
death by all PC enthusiasts who refute fans. So, being a fan of fans, yeah, that's not new.
I was gonna say these are just like your fans, except they really serve a purpose, but they're just as ugly.
The black ones aren't ugly. The Redux ones are, and the beige and brown ones that they typically
Right.
sell are ugly. But I think that's
But at least
intentional.
they serve a purpose instead of just troll commenting all day long.
My wife asked me, she was like, why are they poo brown and beige? I was like, because they're fans, and if you were in a market where everything was just a black fan, wouldn't you want something to make your fan stand out? I don't do it specifically to make it better than the competition. If you're just going to be just another black fan, make it god-awful ugly. And then every time someone looks into your PC case, they won't see the £4,000 you've spent on the case. They'll go, why have you got poo brown and beige fans in it? You're like, well, they're the best ones you can get. Yeah, but they're poo brown. So you're suddenly talking about their fans rather than them just being another component in the PC. Suddenly they're a talking point because they're poo brown and beige.
Right. I mean, with your PC, what do you do all day long? Do you like stare into it like it's this art piece collage, or do you actually close your PC and then stare at the screen?
Yeah, but it's not about looking at it. It's about hearing it.
Yeah, but that's why I mean, like the ugliness of it is really not that important.
Oh, not
it's
at all.
only important when
Oh,
you
see.
don't have your priorities straight.
Gotcha. No, well, it wouldn't be if it wasn't the fact that somebody bought this PC for me, and it has had a lot of consideration put into the aesthetics of it. It does look nice in the corner with its glass sides and its aluminium frame. It looks absolutely spectacular. Now, you drop a couple of grey or poo brown and beige fans on the top of it, and you go, well, they stick out, don't they? They're going to need explaining when someone says, what are they? You're like, fans.
All right. This is getting crazy. So I'm going to take it to the next level. Can you go to Master D and put up the etymology of fan?
Yeah, Tantman is not a fan of this conversation.
No, I'm a big fan. I'm going to go to the etymology of it.
Okay, go ahead.
I want Adam to comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, so online etymology dictionary, fan. Device to make an air current, Old English, FANN, West Saxon. A basket or shovel for winnowing grain by tossing it in the air. In Latin, vanus, perhaps related to ventus, wind, or from pi, root, wet, to blow, inspire, spiritually arouse. Old English did not have a letter V, hence the change in the initial consonant. The chaff being lighter would blow off, sense of device for moving air. First recorded, 14C, the handheld version is the first attested 1550s. A fan light was shaped like a lady's fan, automobile's fan belt, the fan dance, and it just keeps going on and on. So I think it's a fantastic subject. Let's keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Just keep blowing the wind, yeah?
Well, once
Why
this,
not?
Once this is resolved, fans, I then don't have to think about them, look at them because they're black and they just blend in with the PC. That's another annoying thing. To get ones that do not look ugly and brown, you pay more.
So he goes right back. So he goes right back to it. Long-winded fan.
So, yeah, new. That fan's about 18 quid. Second hand in black, it's 18 quid. 18 quid for a fan. That's horrendously expensive.
What are you
Adam,
having
you see
for your
what he
tea,
just
Ken?
did?
Hey,
You see what he
what-
just did, Adam?
yeah. What did you have for your tea last night, mate? Just start.
I was looking at my fans while I was eating my tea with my wife, and I was showing her the blades on it. We have Gusto.
Oh, very good.
Very posh, yeah. You have Gusto over there in the States?
Describe it.
You mean Jacques Cousteau?
Not
Not
Cousteau,
Jacques
no. Gusto, G,
Jacques.
with a G.
He's French.
It's Pink Panther, for all I know. What is it? Describe the meal.
It's not a meal.
Italian.
It's like well, it is a meal. It's lots of meals. So each week we've got an online recipe selection of about 50 different meals, and then you order whatever meal you want for the week, and it comes in a box, but with all of the fresh herbs, all in little sachets. I mean, in terms of a waste point of view, it's terrible, but it isn't in terms of a waste of food point of view. So if you buy 500 grams of mince and the recipe for 4 people only needs 300 grams, what do you think happens to the other 200 grams? Chances are it gets wasted, right? Don't start telling me about freezing shit. Whatever. Food gets wasted when we had meals just made off our own back. Now, Gusto, fantastic. I should be sponsored by them. They're brilliant.
Wow.
Get exactly the amount you need. So you don't
you
have to buy
described-
100 kilos or whatever it is they do in the Indian shops around by me. You get a kilo of turmeric. And like, a kilo of turmeric would last me a lifetime. You know, I just don't need that much.
Yeah.
Nathan, you haven't described what you ate. You just described the process.
Oh, we had spinach with fresh beans and chicken and some creamy sauce with roasted cubed potatoes yesterday. I don't know what it's called. It was delicious. They all are.
That's luxuries. Sounds great.
It was.
I had a flat Earth
I
pizza.
had French fries.
Is it rising up into your mouth at 9.8 meters per second squared?
I was about to say, how do you have cubed potatoes on a flat Earth, Nathan?
So yeah, so as we were eating the potatoes and stuff, I showed her the fan.
But when you do get these new fans fitted, Nathan, I'm sure.
Go on. We missed the end one deck.
I'm just saying when you do get these new fans fitted, it should be a breeze ripping another one off Professor Dave.
Yeah, the Nathan doesn't seem to get winded though. You got into it today. You said, "I like this." Okay, let's go.
No, it is. It's good. It's good to do a few reaction videos. Plus, it annoys the opponent.
Missing all the puns.
There's plenty of people who'll watch that and find
Neil,
it distasteful.
Are you doing some shorts? Are you doing some shorts?
I
for that,
already got
Professor Dave?
complaints about it.
I might get
Neil,
some
you
shorts
just-
out of that. I tend to watch them back after. So all of the last week's videos. I've said this before. If I end up watching my videos a couple of times, going, "What can I trim out? How can I edit this?" I know it's a good video if I'm keen to do that sort of work, and I will. I'll go back through this now, what we're recording, over the next week or whatever it takes, and maybe trim out some sections. But typically, we're not that, or I'm not that concise to get it into shorts. So I'll normally take it apart and repeat myself 2 or 3 times, which is a shame because you can't then condense it down to a 60-second video.
You just sailed through Neil's comment.
Right, were you asking about my fans, Neil? Go ahead.
No, I said I missed all the puns. But my God, this is amazing. He fixed the muffler sound. I don't get no more backfiring. Wow, this guy's pretty good. And he fixed my door.
Oh, really? It's always nice when you do actually pick up a car from a mechanic and you go, like you say, you open the door that normally went squeak and it just opens. And you go to press the window button that made a squeaking sound and it just rolls down. You know, little things like that. Or more importantly, the car works.
Oh, the car's working good. And he fixed my door. My door wasn't even closing. I would have to slam it closed and then lock it quick.
Check there's no boot marks on the paintwork. You might have just given it a good old kick because he got pissed with it.
No, he handed me the 2 bolts. He said, I put 2 different bolts in there. It should be fine now. Now, this guy's pretty good. He was recommended. Somebody recommended him to me. So far, so good.
Always good to keep them on their toes. Take it to another shop. Keep
I
getting
reckon we should do one
recommendations.
do one with
Go on, one deck. Go on.
Sorry. I'm just saying. Could you should do one of
roboting
with Neil Digg, his magic trick of the beach ball apart.
Yeah, I'll fit them on Saturday. You know, I'll take the computer apart, pull out the old ones. You know.
Just out of a title. You said, Neil said, "So far, so good." That should be on one of the videos we see too far.
So far, so good. I don't get it.
Well, you know how they say we see too far?
Yeah.
So then Neil said, "So far, so good." meaning his mechanic and the work. I just tied them together. I'm trying to get off fans if you don't get the idea.
Fans?
Oh, back to fans. Here, I just said the wrong word.
No, but seriously, I don't want to talk about fans. I don't want anyone to get the impression that this is like a subject that I like talking about. It just happens to be the thing I'm doing over the weekend, and once it's done, it will never be mentioned again. I might mention it on Monday to say I was successful, but that's about it. But then I won't care.
I bet you $5 you'll mention fans again.
Maybe on Monday when I've fitted them and I tell you that they're really good and they're quiet.
I'll give you my PayPal. Go ahead and send it. You just did it.
Well, you know, when he was having trouble with his computer, he mentioned it every day. But once he got it fixed, unless it's to talk about some other problem in relation to that, he's not mentioned it.
No,
we're talking about it for the last half hour.
He's backing me up. He's saying that it's clearly not something I'm an enthusiast about. I couldn't give a toss about the computer. I'm being serious. I don't care about it. But when it's a concern, when it's a current issue, yeah, I'm going to talk about it. So in the same vein, yeah, I'm going to talk about my fans. I'm a very boring guy. Beyond this discussion, I've got a very boring life. Fans are going to keep me entertained this weekend. So goddamn you, I'm going to talk about them.
Everyone knows this is a computer geek show disguised as a flat earth debate show. My goodness, it's obvious from all the shows how much you talk about fans, computers, CPUs, that it's a computer show, but it's disguised as a flat earth debate show. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, that's some harsh criticism.
It is harsh. That is harsh. I had considered it when I wanted to be a YouTuber, and one of the subject matters I was like, well, I've grown up around computers. I've built them since I was a kid. My dad was a programmer. That's been my life till I left home. So, and as a result of recently refreshing it all, at the time, many years ago, I was like, maybe I should do that as a YouTuber. But then you look at the landscape and go, wow, yeah, it's an evergreen subject, but my God, there's a lot of trees. It's like, bloody hell, are you going to stick out in this forest? The answer is you won't. There's a very, very slim chance that you might be so lucky as to slip your way into the algorithm with that subject. Flat Earth, on the other hand, initially, it's like, wow, evergreen subject with very few people covering it. It's a godsend. Until you get censored down the bottom of the lists, and then it's suddenly like, doesn't matter that it's evergreen if you're being censored out of all existence.
There's a way you could stand out in the forest. Trim the bushes, the tree stands taller.
Nathan.
Yeah, that's a good metaphor. Hold on, you guys. Hold on. I just want to commend Neil. That's a good metaphor. So that's what we're doing now, right? There's a forest of garbage trees with leaves that look great from afar, and they're all rotten. And we're like literally without any tools. We don't even need them. We can just karate chop our way through them, and then we've cleared the forests. And then all you can see is our shining evergreen tree. Right, Neil? I agree. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Nathan, I was discussing flat Earth with several people, and they said, "How's it you know so much about it?" I go, "I'm a panel member on the Flat Earth debate show 5 days a week." And then next thing you know, his computer started making noise. I go, "Here, let me help you with that." And they said, "Well, how come you know so much about computers?" And I said, "Well, I'm on a computer show 5 days a week." "Well, I thought you were on the Flat Earth debate show 5 days a week." Yeah, I am. And a computer show all in one. See, 2 for 1 with Nathan.
If I was gonna make content about something I actually loved, it wouldn't be computers. It would be audio producing electronics, amplifiers, preamplifiers, microphones, speakers. That's my actual passion. Beyond flat Earth, I'm tenfold more passionate about flat Earth than I am about hi-fi, or ever was about hi-fi. But secondarily, that was the thing I was actually interested in. Computer, it's just a source. It's just a boring black box source. Gives you the information to play through the preamp, through your amp, through your speakers. But it's just a source component, like a CD player or a radio. In other words, it's not that exciting, or any more exciting than a CD player is. But when you combine a CD player with an amplifier, with a pair of speakers, in a nice room, then you've got something absolutely magical. You know, something that's truly beautiful. Computers, ugly black boxes that cause you a load of headaches.
I like that because you're always looking for more subs, but now we know it's subwoofers.
Yeah, that was when I was truly passionate about what I was doing. Rather than, I hate this overclock, I hate this voltage level, it was like, oh, I've got a new amplifier. The old one went bang, now I've got a new one. And now it's back to the bliss of surround sound if it's a movie my wife's watching, or more for me, my music. It's like, that's the thing I really enjoy. Fitting the fans, that's the thing I've got to do. Once they're fitted, why am I fitting them? Here you go. That's a much better example. Tying these two things together. Why do I want the fans to be quiet? I'll tell you why. Because when the fans come on is when the computer goes into standby. Now, by standby, I mean the screen turns off. Not the music stops playing. The computer's very much still running. It's playing a song. But at that point, when the screen goes black, all of the fans turn on. So what do you think that does to the musical experience? The thing I actually love, the thing I'm truly passionate about, listening to music. What happens? You hear, and you go, oh, it's completely ruined my suspension of disbelief. I was really in the moment with Adele, and now I'm listening to a fan at my right-hand corner of the room. The most frustrating thing. I've got to be honest, I haven't listened to any music since I've had this PC. It's been on in the background, but I've never sat in the chair the wife sits in to watch the films. There've been plenty of films on and I couldn't care less about. As for listening to music, I've lost all enthusiasm for it. Because the moment the room goes dark and the screen turns off, I Now, to most people, they'd go, so what? It's not even that loud. I'm like, yeah, it is. If I can hear it, it's too loud.
That's annoying. My son's video game, the same thing. As soon as he turns that thing on, it sounds like a plane is taking off in his room.
How easy it was to get Nathan to talk about fans after he said he wasn't going to talk until Monday about fans. I count about $25 you owe.
Indeed. And I have an alternative solution for if, let's just say for some reason that all the fans just keep making noise anyway, and you don't want to be busy another half year of trying to somehow figure out how to get it silent. Have you ever thought of an alternative approach, namely noise cancellation? Specifically for the fan noises, that there's like a separate what do you call noise cancellation?
I'm sure he would have that.
Yeah, that's been developed. It was developed actually. It was actually developed, believe it or not, Alwyn, about 10 years ago by the very company that the fans I bought it from. Noctua had developed a noise cancelling heatsink. So it had a fan inside and a mic that went to the outside, and they very carefully calibrated and balanced the difference between the frequency induced from the air transferring over the plates, so that the inverse of the wave was created by the fan itself. So if you can know the frequency that's created that's going to pass through the heatsink fins, then you can make an anti-waveform in the fan's rotational speed, but you've got to be able to control it. So in other words, depending on the
mechanical.
Yeah, doing it mechanically, yeah. Very clever stuff. But the only way they could do it was by having that mic. So they have to be able to listen to the frequency of the fins, because obviously in a different pressure or a different temperature, ambient temperature, they will react differently and create a slightly different tone. Therefore, you've got to be able to modulate the fan in such a way that you can change the pitch of the fan to cancel out the vibration of the noise going through the heatsink. So they have developed it about 10 years ago and just never made it to market. And I think the reason was because it probably cost $1,000 to do.
Oh, that's too bad. But there's also, that's super awesome that they've at least tried it, and maybe it'll come back. But there's like separate system, not specifically built for computers, where you can do that, right? Like people put in some cars, you might be able to like have a noise cancellation device completely separate, or even powered by your computer, directed by it, separately installed, just to cancel out the noise.
I've been vindicated, totally vindicated. Now, when people have noise, I could start saying the things Nathan just educated me on. He said, where did you learn that, Flat Earth Debate?
Yeah, the only problem with that, Albert, is the way any noise cancelling works is to create the inverse of the wave that you're trying to cancel, which means that you're literally creating more noise to cancel the noise. You're trying to make the waves sit on top of each other and cancel out. So if for any reason that process doesn't quite line up, you end up with more noise.
Have you considered a live show
but they got that figured. Sorry, but they got that figured out. They know
Have
how
they?
to.
Have they? They have for headphones where it's very controlled what's going into your ears, so you can just have a little chip that listens to the outside noise and recreates the the opposite wave into your headphones along with the music, cancelling out the noise of the aeroplane or whatever you're trying to cancel out. That works. I've seen that work really well, but only if it's very well controlled in headphones.
Yes, but that is very easy because the conditions are very specific. You'll have to calibrate it, right? Any noise cancellation device, you'll have to calibrate it, just like if it's mechanical. So you're still going to have to do that. But once you got it, then whatever the fans are going to make for kind of noise, it will be able to basically match that.
Indeed.
Nathan, have you considered a live show outdoors? Take your computer cover off, disconnect the fans, and just let the air do its thing. I mean,
that's what it's supposed to do. It's a passive PC. That's precisely what it's supposed to be. This whole pissing around with fans thing is just an irritation for a computer that's specifically designed to run without fans. That's its purpose.
I think, Nathan, if you
just get it back.
I suspect one deck wanted to talk about computer fans. Go ahead, Gwandek.
No, I was just saying, if you carry on doing what you...
Neil's decided you're not going to talk. It was Arwin last time, now it's Neil.
I was just saying, I think if you carry on doing what you're doing with like this peer review sort of over other debates, your fan base is going to triple.
I agree. Yeah, it's going to really piss the
I want to get it back.
Oh, did you? His fan base. Get it?
We're trying to get it back on topic, Owen, which is flat Earth.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was going to say, you said something about sound waves. Can you prove that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can prove that sound is a wave. Oh, okay, here we go.
Go
ahead. We can, but we're not going to.
The rarefication of the sound pressure in the medium of air is, in my humble opinion, insufficiently described with the word wave. So, yeah, I'll concede at this point that by my use of a poorly worded description of sound transfer through the medium of air, you would have me over a barrel on this. I'll concede immediately. No, it's not a wave.
What I was going to say is, it's interesting that the negative aspect of the waveform convention you're using actually cancels anything out. It just seems an interesting coincidence, don't you think?
Not really, because I can visualize how it actually, propagates through the medium of air, and how something that was the opposite of that propagation would cancel it out in the medium of the air. Even though they're not waves, I can still visualize how those two things do cancel each other out, like in a physical way. But the word, I don't have the vocabulary to describe what I could probably dig out a video of it as well. Someone showing it in a smoke machine or something. You can show how it would work and how the two would sit on top of each other, like in a very literal way.
Well, instead of waves, you could call it just vibration cancellation, because that's what it is. It's like a shaking thing. It will give noise, but if you counter shake it, if you basically match the shaking move in counter opposition perfectly, well, then there isn't any effect. And that's what it is. It's basically vibration. That sound is really vibration.
Okay, which direction is it? Which direction is it vibrating?
Yes.
It's not a yes or no question.
Obviously.
Yeah, it depends on the frequency. So at a very low frequency, up to about 500 hertz, it's entirely omnidirectional. So depending on the sound source, it will propagate in all directions. As you go up the frequency range, it becomes more directional. Up to the highest of frequencies, which are like a... can't believe I'm going to use these words. Like a beam of light. Like, coming at you.
An omnidirectional wave, though. You see the contradiction in that, right?
Yes.
Beam of light.
Hold on. I want John to have me over a barrel on this. I'm loving it. This is great. Yes. What you're saying is, when you describe something moving in all directions as a wave, that doesn't make any linguistic sense whatsoever. Yes, you're right, which is embarrassing, right? But still very amusing to me. Yeah, that's right, John. That's like an oxymoron.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's still an interesting topic because that's the only conventions we have to describe these things.
Yeah. Same
John,
thing.
I got a meme for you in Master D. Thank you.
Yeah, the more I watch videos on acoustics, the more I get closer to being able to describe some of these things. So, for example, when people they describe, it's the same idea, but standing waves, right? So a wave that's trapped in a room, and when it's depicted visually, you've got like a wave that just sits visually bouncing back and forth between the dimension of the wave. And they say, well, this is a 20-foot wave in a 20-foot room, therefore it's, it fits perfectly in the room. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't actually work that way, right? What you've actually got is the air movement at a high rate in the middle of the room, and that's the air velocity, literally the speed that the air is physically being moved at. And if you had a smoke machine in front of a speaker, it would be the physical speed that you saw that pulse, if you want, of smoke move forward, right? That's the air velocity. Well, when you're describing a standing wave, what you're actually having is that point of pressure where the velocity's at its lowest, meeting the wall. So the velocity of the air actually drops to zero because it's pressing on a wall. In other words, it doesn't have any further to go, so it can't have any velocity. It's going to hit the wall and come back in the opposite direction, right? So if you talk about it in terms of velocity, the measurement that you describe at that point, with a diagram of a wave back and forth in a room, is zero. But you're like, in reality, that is the point of the highest pressure, the point where the actual force pressing on the wall is at its maximum, because that's the point that it presses on it and moves back the other way. But depending on the convention used to describe it, you can give it a zero value, right? It's zero air velocity. Well, you're describing the air movement as a wave, right? So it must have high velocity if it's going to... No, it's got none. But it's got its maximum pressure because it's the point that it presses. Make sense?
Because it's local.
Is this similar to cymatics when they showed the videos of cymatics where the music is going and the sand particles or whatever is taking different shapes with the different sounds?
Yes. Yes,
it's a way of showing it visually, yes.
It's the local vibration, the local pressure that sound tends to create in a very specific pattern.
Yes.
It's interesting the claims that are tied around sound and light, how little we actually do understand about them.
Yes, indeed. But
Well, with that, is Adam available? I got a question for Adam then, based on this. Adam.
Yeah, I am. I'm just walking the dog. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. You remember you said the sun, the photon leaves the sun, and they got the pictures, these photons going in all directions. But because in their model, the sun is so far away, that one single photon, which would be one single light ray, it would be the only thing hitting the Earth if it was going to come in, because it's not divergent, it's just one ray. So how's this even possible when we have divergent rays from that one ray, which started with a photon leaving the sun over a great distance? So it's only one ray hitting the Earth. And then in nature, we see divergent rays. What's going on there?
Well,
before you answer, before you answer,
it's their claim, isn't it?
Sorry, Adam. Just before you answer, shout out to Chocolate Saying, and I'm going to just say one phrase: Super GP. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, it's their claim that the rays are contrary to what we observe and being parallel. But the question I'd ask then is, how do you have parallel light rays generated off a spherical surface?
And more of that, how can you describe each state of that photon as travel with the speed, defining each state from the sun to Earth without violating quantum mechanics?
And add to that, why is it in the lunar eclipse, it's the opposite?
I can answer the parallel light rays thing. Hello, everyone.
Brian, you sound so sound awake.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, yeah, it's just where I am. The parallel light rays thing is a calculation. It's not that they're saying that the rays from the sun are not diverging. What they're saying is the sun is so big, and that's just the correct distance from us, that the rays come in parallel to us, but they're actually diverging. But there's so little divergence between the sun and us in the heliocentric model that we get those rays parallel. That's what they're saying. Because remember, the reason they need parallel light rays is to explain shadows. And that's where the whole claim of this massive sun came from. But of course, they have to then work with the sun they see in the sky. So they needed to say that that had an angular size. And to match that angular size, their big, huge sun had to be whatever distance. So they've changed the size of and distance to the sun several times. But at present, it's over 800,000 miles in diameter and 93 million miles away. But that's the only way, from a calculation standpoint, that they, for that sun to be 93 million miles away, from their calculation standpoint, they can get parallel light rays from that sun.
Yeah, but the underlying...
but they're still not claiming the sun has parallel light rays. They're still claiming it's diverging.
Hold on, hold on one second. I'm sorry. My wife's interrupting me. She's earwigging this conversation. I think she's got something to say. What did you want to say?
I'm looking forward to the new PC fans being installed.
Oh, she's looking forward to the new PC fans getting installed. That was all.
Perfect. Another $5. If the fans, $5 times 2 then. Anyway, back to Brian. Thank you. That was good.
Just to check why, she won't have to hear about it anymore.
Did she not like the brown ones either then?
Well, she was asking, she said, why would they make them brown and ugly?
Well, yeah. Why do that?
That's
I agree with that.
Because an English group had a song, Mrs. Brown, you have an ugly daughter.
Because we then have that conversation that's obviously naturally developing about Noctua fans, and that gets some publicity, and it becomes a talking point. Not just some ugly fans in a computer. It's a Noctua talking point.
Noctua talking point. I just cited a old song that had Mrs. Brown and the words, you have an ugly daughter, to your fans, and you say nothing about that.
Well, hold on, before we get off point, how do you define a ray?
Only by what you can see, John.
What did you say about rays?
No, how do you define a ray?
Okay, a ray, by definition, is a conceptual thing. So it's typically used in things like ray tracing, i.e. computer-generated light in a path. But rays don't really exist.
Yes, they do. Defending Raymond, we call them rays.
We also call sun rays rays, but in a technical defined term, that's what we typically do, though, isn't it? We get hyper-specific. So what's a ray? Well, if you're going to define it, you're talking about a convention to describe light when moving in a path in a computer-generated manner.
Right. And the ray would be a point of possibilities along that line, right? It'd be from A to B and all the points between that, right? Be a ray.
Yes. You've got a receiving point and you've got a transmitting point, and then you've got these possibilities between, with all these different dots lined up to make a line to give you the path between the point of emission and observer.
Right. So to have a ray, how do you have a ray without contradicting the uncertainty principle?
You don't. It completely contradicts it to have that convention to be able to render things in computer imagery, but doesn't sit in terms of reality. It completely violates it. You're correct.
So when they say parallel light rays, it's in Narnia. They're asking us about something that doesn't exist.
and in violation of quantum mechanics. I don't know if you're going there next, but I'm stealing your thunder if you were.
Yeah, that's why I called it Narnia.
You
Yeah.
can quote Andrew Thomas Young there, can't you? With regards to the parallel light ray paradox, he says the first thing to harm yourself with is the knowledge that light rays don't actually exist.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he? Andrew Thomas Young, Donkey Dick Horizon extraordinaire. Light rays don't really exist. There you go. I was trying to dance around it a little bit more carefully. Thank you, Andrew Thomas Young, for affirming what I danced around very carefully. They just don't exist.
Yeah, what we see, what we call sun rays, because they keep on using light rays, not sun rays. We call sun rays is what we see the light from the sun do as it comes through clouds. So that is a blockage of the light from the sun, because the cloud is blocking light. So we see sun rays that go back at an angle towards the sun, but that's only because they're being blocked by the clouds. When the clouds aren't there, we don't see them.
In language, we often find this, though, don't we? You have something that isn't necessarily existing in the reality of our world, having a word that is identical to something that does exist in our world because it's a useful parallel. I shouldn't use the word parallel. A useful comparison to the thing you're trying to describe. So in this case, if you're trying to describe the emission in a path with marked designated points between that which is emitting the light in the program on a computer and the observer, then that compares in a way that you can imagine to a light ray in name only from the sun's rays. So that's probably why they ended up calling them rays.
So they just made an equivocation.
I didn't want to suggest that, but yes, I'm hinting at it where you've just blurted it out, which is absolutely fine by me. So yeah, I think that, you know, it becomes useful in that way for our opponents. It doesn't necessarily mean it was defined that way, other than, well, logically, if I'm going to describe a light having a line to it, well, where do I see that? Oh, well, in the sun rays. Oh, well, I'll call it a ray. There's nothing malicious in it. But that equivocation from our opponent when they describe light moving in a straight line, when they describe you seeing a sunset, for example, because they've got a Muppet Vision representation of it with the straight line between you and the target. So they say, well, that's how the light rays move at 7/6R. Yeah, they're using an equivocation. But only because of sloppy defining, or maybe it's not even sloppy, it's just logical to say, if I'm going to use a convention to make light move in a path in a computer program, what am I going to call that process? Well, I'll call it rays. Or in the case of computers specifically, in that process, it's ray tracing.
This was all only used, Nathan, to back engineer some bending light mathematically for the 7/6R. That's what it was, because of how they create that 7/6R position, as me and Adam went through a few weeks ago. They're making the globe bigger first to give you the line of sight to where the horizon would need to be, let's say, to match something like the Black Swan or whatever. And then, as Adam figured out, they're moving, they're keeping the objects in the same position, but yet they're making the globe bigger. So the object, let's just say the oil rig or whatever, is at the same distance from the observer. They're keeping them in the same distance from the observer via angles and from the center, and making the globe bigger. But what that does is, what they do then is, because the line of sight then to the object is straight, and the globe has gotten bigger, which has allowed them to have a straight line of sight to the object. What they do then is, when they make the globes back to its actual size again, that let's just say in a diagram, they can make it seem like the light from the person's eye is bending around the curve to the base of the object, whether it be an oil rig or whatever. Whereas all they've actually done is made their globe bigger to straighten out the line of sight so the person can see over the blockage, and kept the oil rig, whatever, at the same distance from the person, and then uninflated their globe for a diagram, let's just say. They'll uninflate their globe and give the impression that someone's seeing in a curved path over a curve. It's complete and utter nonsense. So that's light rays they don't exist. It's just calculatory nonsense.
Right. And the way you can qualify how and why they don't is just by seeing the process of them being created. If you see it in software, if you see the physical lines that are created to give you the path of a reflection on some object in a game, for instance, and then compare that to real life, like this picture on screen now, these balloons, where are the lines coming from the light source to the balloons or the water below to create the reflection with the lines traced back up to you in the camera? There isn't any. This is just how it looks. Nothing's being traced. There are no rays. You're just seeing how it presents itself. This is light. This is what it gives you. Doesn't mean that anything's had to have a path. There is no path.
Well, that's I don't know about the is no path, but there's nothing occupying every position to be able to define it as a ray.
When I see something, I can't in any way mentally describe how there's been a path for anything. If I'm looking out my window now at a house and I can see the bricks, what's travelled from the bricks to my eye when you describe a path? I fail to have the words to describe any journey or path.
Well, I see the journey.
It's the ether, mate.
No,
this isn't this isn't an ether conversation. This is just me describing what I see and saying, how can I verbalize from brick out the window to my eye? Where's the journey? Where's the path? That's all I'm asking.
Right. If you have a sheet of paper and you haven't drawn the line yet, is that to say that there is no path that the line could take?
But by comparison, there isn't a paper between me and the bricks.
But no, I know that. I'm just saying that the path would be distance, would it not?
No, only if I move to the brick physically to touch it. Then I can qualify that with distance. But in terms of the distance from the brick to my eye as I observe it, yeah, I'm no longer going to be qualifying the brick in terms of its inches or millimeters size, because that's not what I'm seeing. So in terms of the distance, that would tie into the qualification of its size over its visual representation. Again, there's no journey in that. I'm having to qualify mathematically the distance between the brick and the potential size based on its apparent size if I know the distance. No journey in that description either, as far as I can ascertain, unless I'm missing something.
What I'm saying is, just because you have a distance that you can describe as a path doesn't mean that anything's journeying along it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What path, what journey?
But you're saying that there is no path.
I'm saying I failed to be able to describe one.
Well, when you put a blockage between you and that brick, like a wall, you could say that there is no path for the light to reach your eye from that brick.
But there's still something but there's still something meeting my eye.
Yes, but it's not the brick any longer.
No, it isn't. But okay, so let's do that
If
slightly
you're
differently.
trying to
Same
use
example.
deductive
I'm working
reasoning.
on my feet. Let's see how I do. Same example, but we videotape it. Yeah, so I'm going to videotape me. There's a camera looking out a window at an object. We're going to call it a brick. And that distance is 10 meters. And then you're saying what we're going to do is we're going to slip a piece of paper between the lens and the brick at 1 meter. Okay, that's what we've done. We've just filmed brick at 10 meter into occulted by piece of paper at 1 meter. Right, we've done that. We filmed it. Now we're going to play it back on a screen that's a fixed distance. Yeah, and I'm going to play the same sequence back. Piece of paper obscuring what was represented as being 10 meters away on a fixed distance of a screen, which you're going to say is 50 centimeters away. Okay? And what you see is a representation of something in the distance and then something much closer. But in both instances, the distance represented on the screen hasn't got a path, hasn't got a journey, and isn't even measurable at that point. But it is completely representative. If I scale it correctly on the right side screen, I can make it look exactly the same as it did through the window. But there's still no journey, and even the distances become irrelevant with the representation on a screen, even if it's scaled perfectly.
Well, I'm not saying journey. I'm just sticking to path, because knowing the path information will change the behavior of photons when we're talking about a phenomenon. So I think path is still relevant. I just don't think journey is.
Path links to the direction that I can see. Therefore, I have no path to the brick to the left of the window, because there is no path. Therefore, I can't see the brick. To the right of the window through the glass, or the frame, to the right of the frame, I can see it. Therefore, it does have a path. Okay, I'll concede that.
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem like a huge one, but when you start talking about like the delayed choice quantum eraser or any of the other experiments done with the double slit, the path information becomes crucial.
Yeah, that's the independent variable, right?
Nathan, I think we got a twofer here. If you go to Master D, I posted the snapshot of the reference of Andrew Thomas Young that Adam alluded to, and then the actual link. And I want you to go to the link after we read that little screenshot.
Circulating rays. Next, let's
Okay,
talk
so-
about what temperature gradient will bend the rays so they follow the curve of the Earth. This condition divides temperature profiles that produce ducting from those without a duct. As ducts produce certain types of mirages, it is helpful to understand the minimum requirements for a duct. Note that a ray concentric with the surface of Earth is not straight, but is always horizontal, in contrast to the ray discussed in the previous section, which was really straight, and so could be horizontal at only 1 point. See figure below. What a statement. That was a paragraph and a half. I'm going to read that again. Note that a ray concentric with the surface of Earth is not straight. I got that. But it is always, quote, horizontal, end quote. In contrast to the ray discussed in the previous section, which was really straight, and so could be horizontal at only 1 point. See figure below.
And you will see that figure below when we hit the link, but keep reading to finish this, and then we'll go to the link and you'll see the figure below, and Eli's going to love it.
Okay. Some people have worried about how to apply the refraction law to such a horizontal ray of light, because it does not cross any horizontal boundaries between denser and less dense air in a stratified atmosphere. In general, the curvature of the ray is different from the curvature of Earth's surface, but here we are only concerned with rays that bend just enough to follow the curve of the Earth. Close brackets. The simplest solution to the horizontal ray paradox is to remind ourselves that rays are an unrealistic mental construct. In reality, we we always have been. Is that beam? Yes, it is. Sorry, it's getting too.
Have a beam.
We always have a beam of light. Infinitely narrow rays don't really exist. So let's apply Huygens' principle to such a beam.
Now, if you hit the link below it and scroll down to that portion, circulating rays, you'll see the picture he's showing. And then you could ask Eli's new housekeeping question.
I was just thinking that, Tim.
So was I when I kept hearing the word horizontal and not level.
Okay, I've got it.
I was thinking that too.
I'm pretty sure I'm on the right part with you showing A and B moving out from the center at point C. So any evidence that, was it level? Yeah, it is. Any evidence that level runs perpendicular to the center of Earth? Have I asked that incorrectly?
How about horizontal? Just change the word from, or straight, level,
It's
horizontal.
It's level.
Use them
No, I
all.
have said it right. It's level. Any evidence that level runs perpendicular to the center of Earth?
Well,
Yeah,
it
that's right.
seems like whoever wrote this is not asserting that. He's saying horizontal does as distinct from level.
Yeah, this is a real problem. But there we go. It's already defined as the horizontal ray paradox.
I like it because perpendicular also works. I like it even more.
What was yours? What did you say? How have I said it wrong? Or not the same?
Equidistant, but I like this because this is the rhetoric they use with plumb bobs and all of that. So perpendicular to the center is great.
Okay.
Because anywhere not direct, Anyway, nice.
I have to completely disagree with all this.
Yeah, same here, Brian.
Yeah. Perpendicular is defined. Exactly, Adam. Perpendicular is defined. It has to be equidistant. And you shouldn't say Earth, you should say sphere. Because their claim is that level.
I already told you I disagree, man.
Level is the level for a basketball is the outside of the basketball being an equal distance from the very center of that basketball. That's what they're claiming level is. It's not just without. They're claiming in all situations to deal with
Sure, but let's just get this clear because it's me that said it wrong. So I've said perpendicular when I meant to say equidistant. So any evidence that level runs equidistant to the center of a sphere or center of Earth, depending on how you two end this argument. But either way, it's any evidence that level, which is their claim, runs equidistant to the center of either a sphere, Earth, or a sphere.
Yeah, still don't
Well,
like
I
that.
I do take objection with saying sphere because you can pick up any sphere and redefine level.
No, you can't. Yes, level you can. But horizontal you can't.
That's it. Okay, but listen. So when you use the word sphere, someone can pick up the sphere and use that, reifying the existence of a sphere along with their begging the question. When actually all you need to say is Earth. No, I don't agree that we should use the word sphere.
No,
it's geometry. We're trying to argue.
Listen, you talking about horizontals, I'm not dealing with you yet. Okay.
Sorry.
The word sphere, if I hold up a sphere and I redefine level, that's fine. If I claim that's what the Earth is,
do that first, Eli. Do it.
Why are you arguing?
Take up the sphere and redefine level. Do it. Try it.
It's already been done.
You do it now then. Example it for us.
It's already been done.
There is a housekeeping question in this.
Yeah, it's going to take some tweaking. That's why I threw it in.
I agree with Adam.
It needs some
Why?
tweaking.
It's already been done. You pick up a
right.
Up a
It's been thrown in,
basketball,
so we
you
have
go
this conversation. So we have the tweaking and the arguing about where it's not quite right. That's what it needs.
Because I refuse to have you guys use the word sphere with my housekeeping questions, specifically because
You don't understand why we're using that word. Either.
if I hold up a basketball and I say all points that are equal from the center of this ball are equidistant, I can call that level. Like
No,
I
you
can
can't.
define it.
This is the see you're defining your own housekeeping question now.
No, I'm
The
not.
point of the
Because,
housekeeping, yes, you are.
because saying spheres, that's a red herring. That has nothing to
No,
do
because they're
with
claiming a
what
sphere. That's the whole
housekeeping
point. They're claiming the level is equidistant from the center of a sphere. That means
Yeah,
that
but
the outside of a basketball
okay,
is level with its center, right? But that's
okay, but
they're trying to
that's
redefine the
because
word. Would you
Eli,
please leave me speak, Eli?
Eli, you've got a horrendous mic and you're talking through people. It's really hard to make out what's being said at the moment. Mainly because of you. No offense, you've got good input.
Go ahead.
Yeah. What they're claiming is that level is the outside of a basketball being level with its center. Right? They're trying to
hold
redefine
on, Brian.
level.
Can you
There
mute
is no
Eli?
evidence.
Thanks.
Sorry, Nathan?
I was just asking Eli to mute. We're just getting his background noise. Go ahead.
I know loads of background noise, yeah. Yeah. What they're claiming is that regardless of the sphere, it doesn't matter if they're talking about what they claim the earth is, or a basketball or a tennis ball, they're claiming that the outside of that basketball, tennis ball, or their globe earth is level with its center. They're redefining the word level. And what you're asking them for is evidence that level is this thing, as opposed to level being horizontal. That's what the point of the question is.
Guess what? Remember we were talking about propositions? If I'm holding a basketball, it's a propositional statement if I accept the definition, because the definition is only really there to describe what I'm experiencing. So if I hold up a basketball and I say, look at my definition of level, it is completely correspondent with my propositional statement that all distances around the center of this are equal. That means it's level. They could say that. That doesn't mean that that's what the earth is. That's why it would be a non sequitur, just like when they say, well, if I imagine I'm in a train and then I toss a basketball, well, that's analogous to the earth. No, it's not. I need you to say it so that I can say, no, it's not.
Well, have you, like, let me see this earth center. Let's say when you use earth, right? You say, with equidistant, is there any evidence that that level is equidistant with the center of the earth? What is this center of the earth? Have you? Where is it?
I'll wait for them to tell me.
Yeah, but you're begging the question for them by saying center.
Uh-oh.
So?
Yeah, but you're begging the question for them.
So?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, well, why though?
In this context, that's fine. So if you look at any of the housekeeping questions, I mean, if you look at evidence of R, any evidence of R, you could say the same thing about that, right? You're automatically assuming that there is an R, and you're asking for the evidence of it. Well, we're already aware that they make this claim that level is equidistant from the center of a sphere Earth. It just throws them out loads of problems when they're actually defining how they make their model using horizontal levels. And then one of them's the surface level in their maths. So I don't know. I've got to side with Eli, but so far this is very interesting.
Can we go to the definition of level and its synonyms versus its antonyms? I posted in Master B. It's very deep.
I got it.
It's
up.
important.
Yeah, I got it up.
Hold on. Before we do, I just want to, because Elijah's point didn't get heard, and me and him discussed it. The reason he says Earth is it ties their level claim to reality and what we experience. If you say sphere, they're just going to pick up an object and argue within the geometry of that item they've picked up.
Yes, but what does it matter if they pick up a basketball and make the claim, because they're making the claim concerning all spheres.
Right.
They're claiming Earth is a sphere.
It depends which way you want to go, isn't it? It depends which way you want to go. If you want to keep the argument more succinct in the style of Bev, then you keep it to the geometry and you let them make the allusions to the Earth. It's quite an easy jump, and it's going to happen naturally anyway. Or do you want to link it more like some of the other housekeeping questions, which are linked to the nature of Earth. Is there, they are tied to the center of a presupposed ball. We use that phrase. So it's which way you want. The trouble we had the other day was if you go that route, they're very samey. It's very samey as the other ones. So it's not my housekeeping question.
How about if I left off?
My input
Hold
would
on,
be,
let me just before I lose it. Hold on, just before I lose it. How about if I asked the question as follows? So it went: any evidence that level runs equidistant to the center of a presupposed sphere?
Yeah, that's similar to my.
It's the same question, and I keep, and my response is going to continue to be no, and my critique is the same, because if we allow them to hold up an object, and we allow them to define level being equal distance, regardless of what orientation you are on that ball, if all of those points are equal distance from the center, technically, when they define it as such, well, you asked them to do that for a sphere. I'm not giving them that. When they say, well, there is evidence that level is equidistant from the center of Earth, you have to say that it's a sphere, and then you have to prove that. I'm not going to say, is it level with the surface of sphere, and then sit there with a numpty who's holding up the sphere, explaining to me how they can do this.
Right, so this is the first point in another problem within the question, is when we use singular, getting feedback, I think, from this, when we use singular, we have a problem because singular is no good. We need to have levels or horizontals because it's those that are defined as horizontals to each other that you're trying to reference. How can they be equidistant and horizontals to each other? Yeah, you have to have the pluralized form to compare the two so that they can become not demonstrated that they can either be equidistant or horizontals to each other.
With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both G+ and Discord panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!